Howell Township Zoning Board of Adjustment, Monday, June 22nd, 2026. Lisa, could we have an opening statement?
I hereby declare this meeting of the Howell Township Zoning Board to be open, adequate notice having been given pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act in the following manner. First, on December 16th, 2025, a copy of said notice was emailed to the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger. Second, on December 16th, 2025, a copy of said notice was hand-delivered to the clerk of the Township of Howell. Third, on December 16th, 2025, said notice was posted in the office of the Zoning Board and on the bulletin board in the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9, Howell Township, New Jersey. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code and for your safety, please be advised that this facility is designed with 2 emergency exits at the front and rear of the meeting room. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Could we have a roll call?
Mr. Barillo.
Here.
Mr. Cantor.
Present.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mr. Orozco is excused. Mr. Ryan is excused. Ms. Scottson.
Here.
Mr. Kavarakis.
Here.
Chairman Mertens.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Okay, at this time, could everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a brief moment of prayer for the military serving abroad?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Andy, could you swear in our professionals?
You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name for the record.
Charles Cunliffe.
Jennifer Beam.
Professionals are sworn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, the next order of business, approval minutes, regular meeting, March 23rd, 2026. Eligible voters, Barillo, Cantor, Hughes, O'Donnell, Orozco, Ryan, Scottson, Kavarakis, and Mertens. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anne Marie, Tom with the second. Roll call.
Who was the second?
Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you. Mr. Barillo.
Yes.
Mr. Cantor.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Ms. Scottson.
Yes.
Mr. Kavarakis.
Yes.
Chairman Mertens.
Yes.
Motion carries. Minutes are approved.
Okay, do we have any correspondence?
None.
Wow. First time for everything. Okay, resolutions before the board tonight. Case number BA 25-19, Stewart Street, LLC. Resolution granting variance and design waivers for construction of a single-family dwelling and septic system on an undersized lot. Eligible voters, Cantor, Hughes, Ryan, Scottson, and Kavarakis.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Hughes with the motion,
Second it.
second by Mr. Cantor. Roll call.
Mr. Cantor.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Scottson.
Yes.
Mr. Kavarakis.
Yes.
Resolution is memorialized.
Okay, thank you. Next is case number BA 21-17A, Gabrielli Howell Realty LLC. Resolution granting use variance and amended preliminary and final site plan. Eligible voters, Barillo, Cantor, Hughes, Ryan, Scottson, Kavarakis, and Mertens. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Mr. Barillo.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Kavarakis. Roll call.
Mr. Barillo.
Yes.
Mr. Cantor.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Scottson.
Yes.
Mr. Kavarakis.
Yes.
Chairman Mertens.
Yes.
Resolution is memorialized.
Last resolution, case number BA 2304A, Amican Realty LLC. Resolution granting amended preliminary and final site plan. Eligible voters, Hughes, O'Donnell, Roscoe, Ryan, Scottson, Kavarakis, and Mertens. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Glenn with the motion, Anne Marie with second.
I can't do it.
All right, I'll motion to approve then.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Kavarakis. Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Ms. Scottson?
Yes.
Mr. Caparakis?
Yes.
Chairman Mertens?
Yes.
The resolution is memorialized.
Okay, we can really get down to business. Applications for the board tonight, case number BA 2604, Bernard Garnet, type use variance, description, application, Bernard J. Garnet Jr. is applicant and owner seeking approval to convert the existing seasonal farmhand quarters in the accessory pole barn to a second year-round rental apartment on premise known as Block 183, Lot 34.02. The expiration is August 18th, 2026. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Alan Kaplan, Law Office of Kaplan and Bookbinder here in Howell. I'm Route 9, representing the applicant, Bernard Gurnay Jr. And with me tonight also is our engineer, Jeff Grogan.
Alan, one thing is everyone's gonna have to speak up a little bit while it's raining, because up here it sounds like the roof's gonna cave in on us, so.
Oh, okay. This is the mic that I should point to?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't touch it. Take it off. Okay, good. You need this now or when you're up there? When you're up there. Okay. But we'll call as our first witness, the applicant, Mr. Gurnay.
Okay.
Rich, do you want all witnesses sworn?
Yeah, let's do that.
So the board likes to swear anyone who's going to
Swear 'em all in?
testify?
Yes.
Okay. We have one more.
Okay,
I'm kind of speaking as a member of the public.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, then when you come up, you'll...
Yeah,
be
yeah,
sworn.
we can,
So if you could stand, raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? And state your names for the record, spell your last.
Bernie, middle initial J, last name Gurnay, Gernay.
I'm Jeffrey L. Gogan, architect and planner.
Okay, witnesses are sworn.
okay, thank you.
Okay, sit down, just talk loud so they can hear you, okay? Mr. Gurnay, when did you purchase this property?
August 2023.
And who did you purchase it from?
Harvey Cohen?
That's, Harvey Cohen was a police officer here in town for many years,
Yes.
since passed away?
Yes.
Was he alive when you bought it from him?
No.
Bought the property? He had passed?
Yes.
Okay. And on the property, on Brickyard Road there, were there buildings and structures already there?
Yes.
And you, what was there?
It was a 4-bedroom house on the back part of the lot. And there's a approximately 3,000 square foot pole barn with an attached apartment.
And are those the same buildings that are there now?
Yes.
Have you increased their size in any way?
No.
And you had a survey done of the property back in, when you bought it in 2023?
Correct.
Is that a true copy of one of those surveys?
Yes.
And it shows where those buildings are?
Yes.
And they're in the same place today as, and they're shown right on our application site plans, right?
Yes. Yes.
Same buildings, same place?
Yes.
No other new ones?
No.
Hey, Alan?
Yeah.
It may be helpful
Yes.
if anyone could see what you're looking at, so we have...
I'll hand that in.
Well, we have them here.
Oh, okay, great.
So you have the benefit of our technology.
A little old for technology, but thank you for the help. Yeah, that's it. You see it up there?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really getting loud up here with the,
So that's the survey you were looking at, the one that's on the screen now, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so the back building, the one further in the rear, is the main house, correct?
Correct.
And what does that building consist of?
It's a house, 4 bedrooms, 2-story.
And where's the kitchen for that house?
The kitchen's located On the second floor upstairs.
And there's no kitchen on the first floor, correct?
No.
Okay. Is there a bathroom on the first floor
Yes,
and a bathroom on the second floor?
yes,
So there's some bedrooms upstairs and some bedrooms downstairs, but only one kitchen.
correct. There's 3 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom downstairs.
And the rest is more of a storage barn area,
Garage,
garage?
2 garages.
And that's, the condition it's in today is exactly the same condition as when you bought it, correct?
Yes, correct.
Same kitchen appliances, same bathrooms,
Yes.
fixtures? And then you have, oh, and do you know when that house was actually built?
The house, I believe, was built in 1984. I believe the pole barn was built in 1989, I believe.
Okay.
Okay. The pole barn was built in 1984 with the attached apartment, and the home was built in 1989.
So the home, when you say the 1989 is the main house in the back,
Correct.
the rearmost building.
Yes.
And then now the other house, the smaller structure, was actually the first building built, according to the records you've seen.
Yes.
And that was built when?
1984.
Mr. Kaplan,
Yes.
just out of curiosity, how does your client have knowledge of when those structures were built?
I was getting to that. Good question. There came a time when you had to get a CO for these properties to get a tenant, correct?
Correct.
And that's when you ran into difficulties that you're here now for, right?
Yes.
And when you were looking into it at that time, you were given some inspection and building records, correct?
Correct.
And the building department showed you the records for when both of those structures were built
Yes.
and
Correct.
inspected for electrical service and past electrical service and
Correct.
everything. And that's where you got the years from when they were built, correct?
Correct.
Do you have copies of those applications? Because the ones that I have do not show the building of a house. It shows the building of a pole barn and a 2-car garage. No house whatsoever. We have no record of any house being built on the property. Do you have any kind of documentation?
Doesn't say it was, no, it doesn't say it was
Then the
built as a
testimony
house.
should not be that the house was built, structures were built, but not a house.
That's when the structures were built, correct?
Correct.
And those structures are the same way when you bought it in '23 as they are today.
Yes.
And when you bought the property, were there tenants in those 2 structures?
Yes.
And were there tenants in those structures during the time you owned it also?
Yes.
Not always the same?
No.
And you live here in town, right?
Yes.
Did you purchase this property to live there yourself?
No.
What was the reason you bought this property?
Well, originally was going to use it for my company equipment. I don't know.
Louder.
Just
This doesn't, that just reveals.
No, that's it, that's,
It
that's the
works.
microphone.
Works? All right.
Yeah,
good.
just bring it closer.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
You can talk right into it.
Don't be shy.
The home was actually purchased for the future so that my daughter, who's sitting next to my wife, will have, a home. She's into farming and horses, so we basically purchased it to continue that so she can live in town, not having to leave town because of the market and the price of houses. So we purchased it to keep the house long-term for my daughter. And being that it was 5 acres and a farm, we wanted to continue that.
Is the site being farmed now?
Currently not, it is not, because it's been vacant since September of 2023. I'm sorry, September of 2025,
When was the last time that it had a farmland assessment on the property?
2024.
And that was the prior owner?
Actually, 2025 it was actually, August.
Okay. Okay. So, and then you say it's your intent to continue the farming use at some point in the future with your daughter to move in there?
Correct. I mean, she's not going to move in there tomorrow, but
Yeah, I mean,
in the future,
yeah. So you don't live there. How old is your daughter right now?
she's 15.
Okay, all right.
So it was purchased to use the property to continue to develop the farm, take care of it. So, yes, so.
You keep mentioning farm. Are you aware that you've lost farm assessment and that you will not be able to gain it because you don't have enough acreage in order to maintain the farm?
Correct. We still would like to continue farming, but I'm not looking for the tax break.
Okay.
How many acres do you have?
5 acres.
So it's sufficient enough for the farm purposes you want, but not enough to get the tax advantage that the state provides?
Correct.
And you're okay with that?
Yes.
And it is zoned in an area for farming would be allowed?
Yes, Brickyard Road is mostly farms.
We have some pictures of the interior of the property that I could, just got them tonight, so I don't have them in advance.
Well, they have to be marked. Come over, Palin, here.
Ah,
All right. Thanks. And then these are not electronically submitted, right?
no,
Okay.
just got them moments ago.
Well, we have to, what are they going to be? They're all the same, each set's,
Each set is the same.
okay. Well, what's that?
Do we have to sign them, Andy?
Well, that's different? Okay. So this will be A12. We'll mark it as, maybe on the back of, you could write A12.
No.
Well, at
Yeah.
least from one of them, and then we'll pass them on.
Hey, John? So you're saying there's only one structure that you're showing any records for, correct?
So I found records for both structures.
Okay.
The only thing is that none of them indicated either one of those structures being approved as a home. So the first structure is approved as a pole barn. The second one was approved as a two-car garage. Why that was done that way? The pole barn, at one time when it did have farmland assessment, a pole barn would be accessory to the farm, so that would be allowed. The two-car garage, it's hard to say with the limited amount of documents that I was able to find on the property.
Yeah, because the property was built in like 50 and 60. So
Right.
that's the historical records.
So I couldn't say why they approved that second structure, other than maybe it was being used for farm purposes, but
This is
usually a detached garage wouldn't be approved unless you had a house, because that's accessory to the home.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think so.
Excuse me, Scott,
Yeah.
The one I saw.
what
was
year did you
like-
say, you mentioned a year?
So so based on the historical records, one of the structures was built in 1950, the other one was built in 1960. Whether something was done after the fact and it's not recorded, that we don't have, because as John explained, some of those records are missing, so, or may not be available. So something may have happened on the property during that time frame when the previous owner had it, or owners had it, so, but we don't have any, there's no records about it outside of the historical.
Mr. Gurnay?
Yes.
Are you saying what was it, 1983 and 1989, I think you had put years out there? Were they improved upon during those years? Because they were built in the 1950s.
You know what? The prior homeowner was a police officer in town. He died, and his wife knew very little about this property because they didn't live there. They lived in Homedale. So they used this as a place for whatever officer in the department was new on the job or divorced or needed somewhere to stay. So his wife didn't, I couldn't have any answers to a lot of the stuff I had questions about because he had passed away. So I know from the neighbor next door, he told me that a Chinese family owned it, and I believe that's who Harvey had bought it from. I don't know what year that was, but I think most of the houses on that street were developed during the time that Anne Marie mentioned. I just don't have proof of it.
We have that, I have, in the records that Mr. Gennady gave us, and I'm sure John's seen these, 88 and 89, they're doing electrical inspection for 200 amp service on the main house with lighting fixtures, switches, outlets, lights. that
Has
it got
anybody,
approved.
has anybody looked at like historical satellite of this or anything, or, I don't know? To see what was there from back in, when Anne Marie was talking about?
So I haven't got back that far, but if you look at 1995 Google Earth, 85 is not great. 1995, you can see like two structures with approximately the same footprint have existed there. So and I just want to clarify. So there's the pole barn, which has you're seeking to get approval to validate a dwelling unit use in that structure as a rental dwelling unit, right? And then there's the separate structure that is a single-family home. The application says we're seeking to legalize a second residential apartment unit. So like, where are all the like dwelling units? There's the home, right, the two-story
Yes.
home? Is there any rental unit in that?
So the house is set, it's a 5-acre property,
Yeah.
and it's set very far back off the street.
It's the rearmost one.
You can see the driveway, it's pretty long. The 4-bedroom house in the back of the property. The pole barn is probably 30 feet. Okay, so.
That's the main house with the dot on it?
No, that's the pole barn.
That's the pole
That's the
barn.
pole barn.
Okay.
Blue structure is the house. Gray, I don't know, I might be
Okay, I got it.
colorblind.
Which
You're
one
more
has the,
colorblind than me.
which one is the
From there, it
main
looks
built
like blue.
house from that
The,
picture?
on the left.
All right. So I'm going to ask them that again louder. Which of these two buildings shown in the picture is the main house, the 4-bedroom?
That's the structure on the left, that's the home.
The one that's kind of bluish on
Yes.
the date? Okay. And to the right of it, there's one with a red dot.
To the right is this pole barn, and to the rear of the pole barn, there's the adjacent apartment, which, you know, I mean,
So the floor plan you provided, there's a first story with a kitchen, a bathroom, then there's stairs to the upstairs, which has, you know, a couple of different rooms up there. That's just one unit?
correct.
And then, so the application says we're seeking to validate a second rental unit. So the single-family home is the first rental unit? Is that-
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the single-family home is the primary unit. That has 4 bedrooms, the kitchen, correct?
Yes.
And what we're seeking is the approval for the small 1-bedroom apartment.
So I guess I kind of share Charlie's confusion because it says that you're looking to convert seasonal farmhand quarters to a year-round rental apartment, but you can't have farm labor with no farm.
They did have farm assessment, and they did have farm labor.
So, but haven't had it for a while.
Year and a half?
Since last, I guess technically last August.
So, I don't know if that converting from farm labor, I mean, obviously you said it was vacant, right?
When I took it over?
All right, yeah.
Or
No,
now?
no, it was
What about
not. It was
now?
actually, there was a farmhand who lived there for, I mean, probably 20-something, 30 years.
So when you bought the property, was there active farming on it?
Yes.
And so you chose to stop farming?
No, I chose to, I didn't choose to stop farming. I found out that the property wasn't technically big enough to be farm assessed from the beginning.
Okay.
Because it's 5 acres and it has some structures on there that take away from the 5 acres. I didn't know any of this stuff. Listen, he was the PVA president of the police department. I thought the guy was doing everything the right way. And you know, it was like, John kind of, when he came to the property, he was like, surprise, this, and this. And, you know, the good news was like, hey, everything they did in the house and the apartment was done the right way. I don't know why this guy never got permits for it.
Well, here's my question, though. At some point, farming activities ceased. When did that happen?
Probably in September when I had to vacate everybody out of the houses. I don't have
September
time-
of 2025?
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
don't really have
Did they get
time.
a citation or something from town?
No, it was just basically, I applied to get a CO, and John met me at the property. He walked through, and he basically said, Bernie, this this is no permits here. I'm like, it didn't make any sense to me. I mean, I talked to others in town, and they just said, this doesn't make any sense. How could this be possible? So I had to, John basically said, you got to get these people out of here, Bernie, and I did so. I followed everything he had said. It's been 9 months now, and I don't have time to farm that property, do what I want to do on the property because of my company. So it kind of ceased, but I want to continue it like immediately.
So to answer your question, the citations that were issued here were based on complaints that we received about businesses being on the property. And that kind of opened up the door to all the other issues that we found after the fact with regards to there not being a CO for the homes, records of the second home or the apartment in the pole barn, which is the structure with the dot over it. So, and then one thing just kind of led to another where it shouldn't have been farm assessed, once again, just because you need 5 farmable acres. And with both of these structures on the property and the property being 5 acres, you don't meet the requirements. So, I mean, we allow farming all over Howell, but you don't get the benefit of being called an actual farm or being a qualified farm unless you have the minimum acreage and you produce at least $2,500 a year in that. So I don't know, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know what was being farmed on this property prior to, and we're not making the accusation that Mr. Ganay, the applicant, did any of this work. It was just there, it was discovered. Tons of violations here, and we gave him the opportunity to make it right. So that's why you're hearing this case before you.
So let me ask this. Are we kind of putting the cart before the horse, or would that be like inspected and looked at, or are you okay with
So
what's
first
there?
we need, I mean, he's here to try to, and
Legal.
I don't want to put words into their mouth, but they're trying to legalize a second unit. I'm telling you that we don't have any records of the first unit being there. So first we need to figure out what you guys are going to approve, and then based on that, we'll let him know what he's going to be able to apply for.
Okay.
So if you legitimize
Fair.
one unit, then he'll have one rental. If you legitimize both, then he'll have 2, but he'll have to go back and pull permits for both units because I don't have records for
Okay.
any of these structures being converted into livable space.
Okay, so, all right, I got you. Thank you.
John, I've got a question. Did you ever go back and check the tax roll to see what taxes were paid on it for like the 20 years that the officer was there? Was he paying farm excess
So it
taxes?
was, once again, as Mr. Ganay indicated, it was incorrectly assessed as farm.
So the
I'm
town-
guessing at some point, the 5 acres was being farmed, and then once he started putting structures, maybe it's
But you don't
whoever
know-
the assessor was, they didn't pick up on the fact that he didn't have the,
So if he didn't buy the place, this would have just kept going the way it was going.
correct?
So it was like 20-something years just going the way it was going. He buys it, and then he's handed, a
I mean, that's part of your
hand.
due diligence, right, when you purchase a property?
Yeah, but
mean,
I don't understand how the town didn't ever step in for 20-something years and straighten this matter
I
out.
can't speak for prior,
I know, but I know the officer that owned the property, and I don't see why it's his problem now. If he doesn't want,
well, he's the current
he
owner.
don't want it as a farm, though. He's not asking to be farm
He
assessed.
said he does want to go, yeah, it's
He
not going to
would
get
like
farm
to.
assessment, but he wants to farm the property, yes.
Yeah,
And it is,
right.
and it's unfortunate, but John's correct. It is his problem because the structures on the property are not there legally. So technically, if the town wanted to, they could tell them to demolish those structures. That's not what we're here to do at all, but he needs to legitimize it because he bought the property 3 years ago, and now, and along with all the issues that the property bring. So it's unfortunate, but we can't just say, well, it was, we know the guy that owned it beforehand, and all these structures were great, and so now we're just going to let it go. We can't do that. That's not,
No, I know you can't, but you can't correct what lasted for all this time. And he's looking to correct it by having 2 rentals on a 5-acre property, and I don't really see any problem with that.
so the issue becomes the second unit, the apartment, was farm labor. As a farm, you are allowed to have an apartment for farm labor. In this zone, you are not allowed to have another unit on the property. One single-family home and a farm, period, end of. There is no apartment permitted. So first and foremost, I think what John was saying, we have to figure out how the house got here and to, in theory, legitimize the house. Secondly, then, the question is, do you want to allow multifamily at this location? And if the answer is no, then that unit can be available for farm labor, but it would not be available for regular rental. If you say fine to the rental, and you may be in the minority, I don't know, we haven't gotten to that point in the meeting, but if the board feels they don't care, then they would approve multiple principal structures on a single lot and the multifamily use, both of which are not permitted.
Jen, so you can still, even though it doesn't qualify to technically be assessed as a farm, you can still have a residence or a unit for farm labor on that property?
They can still farm the property, they just would not realize the tax benefit of it. I think you need like an
They're allowed
acre.
to have somebody there.
They're allowed to have an apartment
If it's a farm, yes.
Yes, okay.
I just, my concern is that it's not a farm now, and we don't have an idea of when it will become a farm. And so, at the end of the day, I think personally, any CO for that unit should be linked to reestablishment of farming activity. Otherwise, it becomes just a multifamily site in town, and there's no intention or there's no kind of requirement to farm it.
But, all right, so it sounds like we would need a consensus then that we need to legitimize whatever potential unit, quote unquote, that gets put in there, and then determine next whether, if, assuming the applicant decides to put the farm there, then be able to justify keeping that unit, since it's not zoned for multi-unit, it's just not, turning, if they're going to be willing to farm it, give it a time frame, and then determine about putting a farm, putting
So I'm gonna
a farmhand or farm labor.
I don't mean to interrupt. So this is never going to be a farm unless it becomes a commercial farm. So as it stands now, he doesn't have the acreage to qualify as a legitimate farm. Farming, an actual qualified farm, and the act of farming, growing something in your backyard, just because you plant a couple of tomatoes, it's technically a farm-related activity, but it doesn't make you an actual farm. It's just something that you do. So he could most certainly plant tomatoes, corn, he could set up maybe a little stand and sell whatever he's got, but he's not an actual farm. So I want you guys to understand that in the farmhand labor.
So then it sounds like the farm, the housing that went along with the farm is not really, can be legitimized
No,
as,
it can't, you're
as
right.
farm,
Yeah.
as accessory or related to farming. It would just be a second principal use in the zone, or not in the zone. It would be a second
And it,
apartment or home in the.
and it becomes a slippery slope to try to validate as part of approval, like, the second use or second principal dwelling use being tied to the farm, right? Because
Because there is no
he has the
farm.
intent to do it in the future, but then the prior owner could just decide, I don't want to do that, and then, who's out there to check this, whether the farm.
Exactly.
To this board.
Yeah, it's tough, though. You could plant 2 tomatoes, or you could have a whole row crop of, like the threshold. If you're a Q farm, it's very black and white. That's the challenging part. It's almost like you can recognize that this structure has existed and was associated with some prior farming use on the property, but it's a second residential use, and can the lot and the acreage and the character of the neighborhood accommodate a second residential dwelling use on the property? I don't know. It becomes difficult to tie it to the farm use, because how do you track that? That's a challenging thing.
But also
Charlie,
challenging also would be if he had a few hundred more square feet of land to qualify for the farmland assessment, then he could have that for the farmhand. But you don't check to see if the guy living in there is actually doing any farm labor. He could be a salesman for IBM somewhere.
No, but
and he just lives there.
but it's very easy when you want to renew your rental certificate or whatever on a yearly basis to see whether or not the property is still a qualified farm. When there isn't a vehicle to become a qualified farm, it just creates a gray area for the township to be able to say, oh, is 4 tomatoes enough for it to be a farm, or, you know what I mean? So
John, this might be a silly question, but is there a CO for when a farmhand changes, or is it just on the farm to,
So currently, that's considered it falls under the rental statutes, so there's some kind of compensation for that, so they would need to register.
well, no, I'm saying on a qualified farm, and you have a farmhand, do you have to have a CO, or is it
Yeah.
going to be a change to the person?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you do.
Thank you.
Hey, John, if I may, you were talking about selling a few tomatoes, putting a stand out there. If he grew rows of tomato plants, he could have a roadside stand selling the tomatoes as a farm, correct?
Not as a farm. Not as a farm. Not as a
Hey,
farm.
guys,
He could sell the tomatoes off the,
why don't we let
right
the
there, right?
applicant put his case on?
I just want the definition of what is a commercial farm. I mean, can he sell firewood? And he's not a farm where he gets the tax relief, but he's a commercial farm. What's the difference between the two?
So a commercial farm would, when you don't have the acreage, the 5 farmable acres, you have to prove that you have at least $50,000 in sales per year in order to become a qualified farm. And then you would apply to the county ag board, and you would receive the right to farm protections that are afforded a qualified farm, which would only need $2,500 a year in sales.
So if he wanted to be a commercial farm and sell firewood there and sell Christmas trees, all he'd have to do is plant them, and he could still have both departments used? Or am I missing something here?
He would have to do
Well,
that
I
for
know he's
3,
gonna-
he would have to produce, given this specific situation, he would have to sell $50,000 worth of trees that he planted there. He's not allowed to import it from anywhere else. He would have to grow it on this property. That's the whole purpose of right to farm. It's to protect the farmers, to allow them to live off their land. So because this specific property doesn't have 5 farmable acres, he would have to produce $50,000 a year.
Well, I
and prove
haven't
that to
heard
the
that
ag
figure
board.
before, so that's a lot more than a regular farm. So he isn't going to do that, that's for sure.
I just want to make one very clear. I am not looking for a farmland assessment. I know whatever happened between the prior owner and the town, whatever happened was wrong, okay? But I own a tree service in town. I see hundreds of farms, Hugo's farm, this farm. They're not farm assessed, but they're still called a farm. They still farm. I see animals, I see, fruits, vegetables. I see hundreds of them in town that are on 2 acres, 1 acre, 3 acres, 4 acres. So my point is, I still intend to do farming on this property, but just like hundreds of other properties in Howell that have decent size, you're not doing that in Glen Arden, obviously, but my point is, I don't care about the tax break. I want to continue the farming. If my daughter wants to have 4 horses on this property one day, and we want to do it like tons of other residents, that's all we're looking for. I'm not looking to ask for a farm assessment at this point. I know that's not going to happen. How it happened, something was.
So I'm just going to say, that's not before this board. They can't grant you a...
I'm not asking for that.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, like, that would be the tax assessor's office, right?
Well, yeah.
So the only reason that the issue of, quote, farming is relevant relates to the use of the residence, the smaller apartment, as attendant to farming labor. I think that was John's
Okay.
point.
Ernie, does that one apartment, is that something you need? I mean, is that where your daughter might be staying, or what's the purpose of keeping it?
Keeping the apartment?
Yeah.
Basically, I had a guy, it was a guy there for 30 years who lived in there, took care of the property. So my plans were to continue this. I can't farm that property. I don't have the time. But the point was to have someone living in the apartment to take care of the property. It's 5 acres. I did a lot of work there when I bought the property, but there's a lot more that needs to be done there, and we've been working hard at it.
But who's living in the 4-bedroom house?
Currently, nobody.
Now,
When I had that home, I mean, here, I wasn't losing the, excuse me.
Who was there?
There was before I was there,
No. Before you had to ask
all
everybody
right,
to
so,
leave, tell them.
yeah, so I had a father and son staying there. I mean, four-bedroom house. I had a father and son staying there. They would like to come back. I'm not here trying to take advantage of rental laws. I had two people living in a four-bedroom house, okay? So they're displaced. The apartment was Adam, who basically works at several farms, and he would dedicate it to come get the place cleaned up with me, which I've spent a lot of money cleaning up the outside of it and developing it and taking out garbage trees and redoing things out in the outside. So he was there from when I came on board, and he did a great job, and hopefully we can, have him continue what he started.
Are we talking about a second apartment in that pole barn?
No.
I thought you said there's already one in there. That's
that's
this
it.
one.
Two buildings, two places to
Okay,
live.
gotcha.
Each one has one.
Gotcha, okay.
But these pictures are from the apartment.
I'll go over it with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're holding up, Mr. Merton's holding up this one right now. Where's that?
That's the kitchen in the apartment.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Inside the pole barn.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the next picture shows the same room.
That's the kitchen inside the pole barn of
And
the apartment.
then there's a bathroom with a blue floor.
That's the bathroom of the downstairs apartment.
And then there's a picture of a bathroom with a white floor.
That's the, hold on, upstairs bathroom?
That's the main house.
In the main house.
And then there's a kitchen with, a picture of a kitchen with a brown floor. Where's
That's
that?
the upstairs kitchen of the house.
Main house.
I don't think anybody's listening.
That's
No, I
it.
am listening, no, I am listening.
I don't know
And
if
then
you
you
can
have
hear
the
who.
main bathroom.
No,
main house.
excuse me. Ms. Scottson has a question that I think is warranted, because maybe we can stop.
Yeah, we could kind
Yeah,
of stop all this.
kinda-
Yeah. So, all right, so my question is that way first. So there's two different potential, I'm going to call them rentals, just for the sake of conversation. Two units currently that we're discussing. So is the concern the fact that they want to make both of them in two separate buildings, two separate structures, rental units, versus adding, because we're not adding a second one to any potential building or structure, but there's two separate rentals.
So the fact that let's just talk about the single-family home.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that the applicant is interested in renting out that unit as a single-family home, and I don't think it matters if it's a father, son, or what have you, because the definition of family is very broad. If they're using the same kitchen facilities, if there's, shared bathroom facilities, et cetera, it could be like a fraternity, and they're still categorized as a family in a single-family house. So there's nothing that would preclude him from renting out the house. Single-family homes are permitted in the zone. Clearly, it meets all the setbacks and whatnot, because the property is so large. So, I understand that we have legitimize that structure, but it is permitted in the zone, quite honestly. If not for the apartment, and he came in tomorrow to build this single-family home, he could pull permits and build the home. So I'm not really worried so much about that. In my opinion, the crux of the application is the second unit. So based upon the definition, and John, regurgitated to you the definition of what a farm is in Howell, and then also it's consistent with the Right to Farm Act, which is regulated by the County Ag Board. This technically is not a farm. So if you don't qualify under right to farm, which this would not,
I get all that.
then you're not eligible for farm labor. So basically, the application is, can I keep a rental apartment and have this as a multifamily site?
Even as two separate
Yes.
dwellings? Okay, fine.
Yes.
Yeah, so this would be kind of like a garage apartment detached. This is kind of the same, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's,
Our ordinance prohibits two primary structures on a single lot, and essentially, that's what you're deciding.
All right.
If the second structure, principal structure is going to be allowed on this, and then after that approval, if he wants to rent it or live in it, he can, after he goes through all the regular permit process.
What if the two buildings were joined somehow?
Then that's a single structure,
Then we wouldn't even be talking.
correct?
So
We just approved that.
why don't you build a breezeway or something
Yeah,
between the two.
we talked,
You said 30
about that.
feet, right?
We talked about that, 30
Didn't we
feet.
just approve something very similar 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. Right, can I
So-
just ask for what, oh, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think, is that a legitimate solution?
Can you have two separate families living?
I mean, if it's got a,
Multi-generational.
if it's got a shared roof line, it's technically one structure. Yeah.
So now you start getting into technicalities. Now you start getting into technicalities of, are you truly living as a single unit, right? If you're just building a breezeway, so now we would look at this as still an apartment. It's almost like converting your garage into its own little apartment with its own kitchen, its own entrance, and it kind of, you're almost defeating the purpose of our ordinances, which tries to prohibit this to begin with.
So even though they're joined, if you have two separate units, two separate families, let's just say, still prohibited?
Correct.
Okay. So that wouldn't be the solution then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is the remainder of the pole barn just like storage or something? Just that?
Yes.
Okay, I was just at it.
Yeah, and I'll just note for the board's record, so the Board of Health did issue a memo on this application. They have an approval from 1993 for a septic system for a 4-bedroom dwelling, so I don't think it's the principal dwelling that we're really questioning here. It's just that, the town and even the Board of Health doesn't have any record of this other unit being built and any accommodation for it. So if the board is inclined to act favorably, they're going to have to go satisfy the Board of Health, either have an engineer certify that the septic system can handle this new unit, or they might have to modify it to provide additional, infrastructure for that.
And we agree to that. We
Yeah.
understand that that's a necessity, and it would be conditioned upon, any approval you give us would be conditioned upon the Board of Health saying the septic system is sufficient for the use. We understand that.
Okay.
And you did, I'll get back, you
Yeah,
did
go
make
ahead.
the septic improvements that did get inspected.
Actually, I have a septic guy ready to replace the system for the apartment, like, immediately.
Upon approval.
Yeah, but yeah, I want to, that is part of the,
Okay. And we went through, and you're familiar with this area. What's, this is on Brickyard. What's that area like there? As far as uses
I
and
mean,
houses?
anybody who's not familiar with Brickyard Road, it's mainly farms. I mean, there's really no, Brickyard Road is there's no small properties. It's like, I think the smallest property is like 2 acres. So, I mean, there's multiple other multi-detached rentals on Brickyard Road also, so we'll just add that. I don't know how many, but there's more than one. On smaller properties than mine, so there's, I don't know how many, 300 Brickyard Road A, 300 Brickyard Road B. There's 2 separate houses on properties on Brickyard Road that are being rented right now, on smaller properties. Mine's 5 acres. There's some of those are on 2 acres. So there's several on Easy Street, so it's not, I don't have the count, but there's many separate, 2 separate rentals on smaller properties than mine in Howell Township.
What is the square footage of the apartment?
I don't have it handy. I will, John walked through
Well, with the engineer now, he's here. Architect, sorry.
It's on the plans.
Okay.
Hey, John, do we have
Well, I see
records of some of
testify.
these other properties that he's referring to?
That's,
I mean, I would assume we would. I mean, I don't have them handy, but
I have some of them. There was too many to count. I mean, Brickyard Road has 2 separate rentals that I saw myself, and I wasn't looking hard. I know there's several on Easy Street. There's some on Georgia Tavern. So the town's got tons of multiple residences that are being rented on one property.
So, to that end, we don't know the history associated with how that circumstance came to be on all these other properties. For all we know, they could be farm labor. We just have no idea. And quite honestly, if we made mistakes in the past, doesn't mean we're gonna be destined to continue them in the future. So I hesitate to weigh what's going on other properties elsewhere in town with no history, no understanding of how the circumstance became, against what is being applied for in this instance. They should be looked at independently.
The properties I'm referring to are not large properties. Georgia Tavern does not have acres on
So
these lots.
respectfully,
On Brickyard?
we don't know. You cannot sit here and tell me how those units came to be. You don't know that they got a variance, they didn't get a variance. You don't know if they built the units illegally, didn't build them illegally. We don't know. So just because you see them elsewhere doesn't make it okay here.
I did look on the township rental. I went through Oprah and found the residences that have several rentals. If mine would have been done right in 1984, it would have been grandfathered in like the rest of these.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We've covered a lot of the questions that Jennifer's office had raised in her report. There's a question about signage. The one thing that you want to do in addition to satisfying Monmouth County with the septic is you want to put up a sign?
Yes.
What kind of sign?
Just a general farm name that we chose for the farm and we bought it.
Okay.
Okay.
And the exhibit was previously provided, right?
You have 10 of them there.
Yes.
810, John. John, 810.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, can we pull that up on the screen or see that?
You have 10 colors.
A10?
Hey, Jen? Cut to the chase on this. If it's not a commercial property, is he allowed to put up a sign? Thank you.
Why's that? His husband in town.
Just the name of the farm and the address.
I think they're asking for relief to allow this sign at the location.
That's a different question.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I would say too is that that's a variance, and we're gonna need to see it, a detail of it that's dimensioned, and then also where, a site plan on where it's located, because from what I'm understanding, where you're showing it in this exhibit is actually in the right-of-way of Brickyard. It's not even on the property.
Yeah, they sent over an electronic exhibit that they were planning to introduce tonight, and the right-of-way of Brickyard Road here is like unique. It doesn't actually, across the property frontage, follow the curvature of Brickyard Road. It actually comes to a point. So the sign might be set back off the road, but it's technically in our right-of-way, so as a board, we can't grant a variance for something to be in the town's right-of-way, so it would, I don't take objection to the sign. It just needs to be not in the town's right-of-way, because we can't grant a variance for it not to be on someone else's property.
I could put it behind the property line. It's
Yeah,
not.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
good. We got that resolved.
I'm assuming that there's gonna be testimony to justify the relief that they're seeking, and so this would be a variance that they would need to receive to allow a sign in the ARE2 zone.
Okay, yeah, we would need that.
I'm going to call our next witness unless anybody has any questions for the applicant.
We good? Move on? Okay.
I think I might stand over here.
You want to say? Okay. I'm going to call the engineer, Jeff Brogan.
Architect.
Architect, sorry. Architect.
Yes, thank you.
Could you
I
just
wanted
tell me
to-
your qualifications?
Oh, okay, qualifications. Went to a 5-year architecture program at NJIT from '73, graduated in 1978, was licensed in 1983.
And is your current license is current, right?
Licenses are
Okay,
current.
okay, thank you. We accept your qualifications.
Thank
Mr. Chair, you're
Yes.
also testifying as a planner, right?
Yeah, that's,
So maybe put those qualifications on the record, too?
thank you, Jennifer. I was just gonna, forgot all about that.
Yes, I also received my planner's license a year or so after that through the endorsement process, because a lot of the training that planners were getting was included in our curriculum for 5 years. So
Oh.
they allowed us to qualify as planners. Sorry, I have to keep changing my glasses sometimes. And
So, okay,
I've
so,
testified as a
so
planner.
as a planner, you're current with all your requirements for that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We'll accept your qualifications again.
Yogan, you've had an opportunity, you prepared these plans for the board, correct?
Yes,
For
I
the
did.
applicant? And you've had an opportunity to look at, we'll start with the engineering report from T&M.
Yes, but I'd like to just add a few comments from the previous discussions.
Go right ahead.
I'll clarify things a little bit.
That would be helpful.
If you don't mind. I wanted to mention that we did quite a bit of research, and Bernie did some Oprah, and we have quite a few records from the permit office going all the way back. And as he mentioned, there was a permit for the pole building in 1984, but also I believe the health department has provided records of a perk test that was done for a small septic system in 1984, which would have only been for that pole building, because the other building wasn't built until '89 or so. So we believe that there is some kind of a septic there that has been functioning for decades without any negative impact or puddling or overflowing or any of the obvious problems that we see with septics. We just don't have it well documented, so he's willing to replace it if this is approved with a inspected system. In 88, 89 is when the permit, and correctly stated, it was just permitted as a two-story garage with a storage space above it, essentially, is what was given out as a permit. And, but what's interesting is right after that, or almost while it was being built, in 1990 is when the septic system was installed for that building, a 4-bedroom septic system, all with perk tests, full engineering and inspections. So I think it's safe to assume that there was some plan to have occupancy in that building. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put a 4-bedroom septic system in. But there must have been some kind of relaxed method of approving the addition of the residents into that building. We don't know how that could have happened, but it obviously happened. And it was during that initial construction of 89, 90 is when that residence was built. And after looking at both buildings, it appears to me that they were both built very well within code. I didn't see any of the obvious signs of a backyard guy just throwing an apartment in a building or something. It was built well under the current codes at the time. And if this is approved, basically there will be building permits will be applied for, which is what we actually started to do when Bernie was asked to vacate the units. We thought, and he was told at first, just apply for permits and we'll go out and do the inspections as if you're just doing it now. And under the New Jersey DCA, where you run into these situations where work was done without permits, they've issued guidelines that allows you to treat it almost like a continued certificate of occupancy, where you basically look for signs of any improper construction and then dig deeper if you see it, but you don't force them to like rip everything out and as if it was a new construction. So, so that was the plan. And then it was discovered that, hey, wait a minute, you've got to go for permission to keep these 2 units. He would have gotten a permit if there wasn't a second unit. If it was just a single residence, they would have just approved the zoning and the permits. We would have just gone through it. But the problem is the second unit, which was there again for decades it was functioning as a farmhand unit, even though there may have been something that either changed or wasn't correctly documented for the farm assessment. Let's see. Okay, I wanted to mention also that in 2023, natural gas was run into the property and a large propane tank was removed. You might be able to very vaguely see it in there. I'm used to scrolling and zooming, but I'll just tell, yeah, you can see the white propane tank that was removed. And now there's a gas service coming in serving both buildings with meters, and that was all done with permits and inspections. Did you have that done?
Yes.
Okay. So we basically, the overview of this is we believe that whatever happened out there was not done in secret, that it was done with inspections, even though the inspections might have been more like a courtesy to the police chief and sort of like a little bit less formal, more relaxed approach to it, but it doesn't look like it was done without the proper procedures to me. And I do get called in to look at buildings occasionally after the fact.
Mr. Gogan, you prepared the application and went through things and saw the report. There's a number of variances and waivers that are required. Let's go through with the waivers first. You saw the list of waivers from the engineer?
Yes, I'll flip to that letter, and I started to write a letter in response to,
Yeah, Rich, I'll just jump in. So I don't take any exception to any of the waivers granted because they're not proposing any major site improvements with the application. They're really just seeking to legalize structures that are already existing here. So I don't have any issue with this. There are some regulated features on the back side of the property. We just noted for record that if the applicant or any future owner decides to do anything on this property, they need to do the proper due diligence so they don't get themselves into trouble, right? As far as the relief, they need relief because the residential driveway is over 150 feet. Over 150 feet is supposed to be paved to a certain length and width. This site has existed for some time. I think we've heard that ad nauseum at this point, so I really don't take exception to that. They do need technical relief of curbing and sidewalk along the property frontage here. I don't take issue to granting that relief. Looking at the aerials and street view, there's no sidewalk or curbing in the vicinity. You know, when we do grant the relief, they are required to make contribution to the fund, but they could always seek relief from the governing body of making that contribution. I take no issue. I don't think it warrants sidewalk and curbing installation in this part of town here. We talked about the sign. I take no issue. They got to provide details on the side, just can't be in the right of way because we can't grant relief for that. I really don't have any other technical issues from an engineering perspective. It really just comes down to the second residential unit. And to me, I think we can acknowledge that there was a farm use on this property and that like the applicant has the best interest to continue some type of farming activity, although not in a fully qualified farm. I just think it creates problems from the board and from code enforcement and like change of tendencies to be able to track that because we're never going to be able to set a realistic benchmark on like what's a threshold for farming, you know what I mean? And what's it, I have 2 raised garden beds and I plant tomatoes, I'm a farm, right? So I think you need to like look at it separate from that and not necessarily, you can acknowledge that there was some farming activity that happened on here and they have interest to do that in the future, but I just think it creates an unrealistic benchmark for the town to be able to track that, you know what I mean? So that's my professional opinion.
Okay.
right, so I think that pretty much summarizes the waivers that were raised in the
Yeah, so
engineer
they're-
letter, and I don't think there were any others that were raised in the planner's letter. Okay.
So the
I'm just
crux of the matter is the second structure variance.
Right, and the only other thing I want to mention that the engineer brought up was something about the proximity to wetlands and topography, and the fact that we're not changing anything on these buildings. They're just proposed to remain as they are, no potential disturbance of site or effect on the low-lying areas.
Yeah, I don't think we're even thinking that's going to happen, so.
So if you know, I'd like the, whoever's handling the exhibits to scroll to my sheet C1.
So before we go there, if I could just, I acknowledge the fact that this application is not proposing any site improvements or changes. However, we have seen, this board and the planning board as well, instances where unless there's a physical delineation of those environmentally sensitive areas, there's the potential to creep. So assuming this is farmed at some point in the future, I would prefer there be some kind of physical delineation along wherever that buffer line is that basically says, like, you cannot clear past this mark, because otherwise you wind up getting creep into the environmental resources on the back end. So nothing crazy, like a split rail fence that would delineate like the limit of disturbance on the back end so that there is no creep into those environmental resources.
Would you be agreeable to that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
The only thing I would add is, as far as I know, the site has not been professionally delineated for wetlands.
So here's what my recommendation would be. They should go to GeoWeb, pull the mapping, show them where the map wetlands are, have an environmental professional give them some type of recommendation on what the buffer would be for that. Show that on the plan and put a split rail fence in. At any point in the future, if they decide to go do farming or do some kind of activities to go further into the back of the property, they're gonna have to do the proper due diligence at this time. It at least makes the current owner and any future property owner aware that, like, hey, there are regulated features back there potentially, and, buyer beware, and be careful what you do on your property, because there could be ramifications for it, so. I think making them go and get a professional to do an LOI and things like that would be.
I was certainly
Yeah.
not suggesting that. I think that using the GeoWeb is a perfectly good tool just to give an idea of where that is and then to put that split rail fence along that line.
And I have some of that information on my cover sheet. If you could go to my C1, I'll show you a couple of things that I did find to try to fulfill the checklist.
That, we don't have that electronically?
Actually, all the exhibits should have been ready. They were all sent over. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a USB with all of my exhibits if you want me to hand them to you.
I don't think it's,
Just to clarify, C1 is part of the variance plan set that he submitted with the application, and there is a little excerpt that just.
A5? That's exhibit A5, John?
It does show, without aerials or any of the improvements, like what wetlands are, but I think what we're just asking them is to go to GIS, get the line, put it on the plan, and just, show it on the plan itself, just so that way this property owner and any future property owner just knows, hey, before I go do something, I should go look at this, because, no one wants to see someone back at the board 5 or 10 years from now.
Could I interrupt?
yeah, go ahead.
I own next door.
Well, no, unfortunately,
I had to get.
no. Wait,
Get your turn.
There will be time, but not yet.
we're going to be allowing you to talk in a few minutes. Once.
If you could zoom in to the lower middle of that page. Am I talking to Lisa? Are you handling it?
No, John's
Okay.
doing it.
Thank you. And just a little bit more to the right, I want to point out that right there at the lower by the LLG title block, if you could zoom in to that picture, that is a Google Earth image from 2001, 2002 showing that the property was intensively farmed for shrubs and trees in a pretty organized way.
I think that we've beaten the farming
Yes,
to
we-
death
yeah,
at this
because
point.
I'm convinced
We're ready
there
to
was a
move on
farm-
from it. So,
I'm not going to try to say more, I just wanted you to know I have that on the plan and you.
wait, but
now
that's
have-
not what we're asking for. We're asking for you to look on the GIS, pull up the wetlands, talk to an environmental professional, get what the buffer would be, whether it's 50 foot or 150 feet, show that line on a plan, and put a split rail fence at that location. That's what we're asking.
Okay, if you could back away, I want to see if I have that on the sheet.
Well, we don't need to resolve that
Okay, all
here.
right.
It would just be a condition of approval if the board were to grant it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you that what you have on there showing environmental resources is not great, because it shows a stream going right through the back of your property. So I would encourage you just to use the GIS.
Okay. All right, then,
Let's get into the secondary use.
Oh, my God.
Issue. You know, Positive and negative on that.
all right.
Okay, so right now, I think the planning testimony is where we should be
Okay.
going, and then we can open up to public.
Right, so this is a variance application for it's a use variance, because we're asking to have 2 residences on a single-family lot. And even though it's actually a second principal building, because of the fact that we have a principal use proposed in the pole building as well as the rear building, that creates 2 principal uses and essentially converts the pole building into a principal building. The pole building was allowed as an accessory building, as a utility building, but now that it has a residence, it now becomes a second principal building. So there's a variance needed for that second principal building. And, of course, the second unit. And just to make clear that in this ARE2 zone, there are cases where second principal buildings are allowed. So it's really, the key is the fact that we have this apartment in there that's been there for decades. And, you know, going through, we look for the positive criteria, the justifications that the board can use to grant a use variance. And it's typically you need either a use that is a special reason or like a inherently beneficial use, which might be you know, something like a church or some clearly understood as inherently beneficial, which we don't think we have that, although we do recognize that the apartment is a low income. We may not deem it that and deed restrict it as that, but it is performing as a needed unit in the town for fulfilling a need for reasonably priced housing, and especially for the farm worker who does work in the vicinity for several different farms. But we're not really relying on that as our positive proof. The other approach to take is basically showing that the site is particularly suitable for the proposed use. And that's more the leg that we're trying to rely on for proving that it's appropriate to allow the second apartment. And, you know, under the MLUL, you can also talk about hardships as a positive proof to fulfill the positive criteria. And although we don't have typical hardships like odd-shaped lot or really bad topography or something like that that you might cite as a hardship, we could say that the pre-existing history of decades long, the 40 years for the house in the back and actually 40 for the pole building, and we think the farm worker's house was pretty much the same time. And then 5 years less for the rear building. But they've been there for decades, and we can, sometimes we'll call that like a hardship, the fact that you've got this pre-existing non-conforming condition.
I wouldn't call it a hardship.
Okay, so I'm not going to push on the hardship issue. But it is a factor that you can consider, the fact that for decades, this has existed without anybody complaining and with no apparent negative impact. So that's the other thing we have to get to.
I'll dispute that as well.
We have complaints on the property.
There were some complaints back when there were too many trucks or farm equipment and things being stored there for a while.
Illegal businesses, illegal occupancy, those are the things that, the reason why code enforcement went out there in the first place and all this was discovered.
That was after it was sold?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously the new owner's trying to make things right and inherited some situations of people living there with equipment and stuff that was not approved and not appropriate for a residential zone. So basically he's not proposing any commercial equipment other than what would typically be allowed for a residential, like a guy in a plumbing truck coming home from work or something like that. So I guess I'm going to just talk about the site suitability. And I think the key here is in an ARE2 zone, it's a 2-acre zone. ARE. I'm sorry. I had 2 written here.
It is too, it's AR2.
Say it? Let me just see. I have the zoning chart up.
You're right.
It's ARE2, right? It's a 2-acre zone, essentially. Theoretically, somebody with a 5-acre property could subdivide the property and build 2 single-family houses on 2.5-acre lots, okay? So what the physical result of what's proposed is not really that different from what would be allowed in the zone and is currently allowed in the zone. So there's no over-intensification or negative impact in terms of forcing too many people onto a single-family property, except the fact that it's still one lot. But it's actually larger than you would need to put 2 single-family houses on there. And that's an accepted premise for site suitability. The other thing that I mentioned was the proximity of this unit to the farm itself for the worker, and you can see it was a functioning, busy farm that required daily activity, almost year-round. And then that the fact that other farms in the area also make use of that person's skills and equipment, and he serves those other farms and wants to be close to them so that he can get out early, come home late, and not have to commute an hour back and forth each day. But be able to be on hand when something comes up, to be able to quickly go and service the other farms or take care of something on this farm.
Is there going to be a limitation that it's only going to be rented to farm-like workers? Or is that, I mean, that's not in the record, but,
Yeah.
I mean, that's your argument, but like, can he rent it to anybody?
Right, I agree.
I think in the
It's-
application, as presented, he could rent it to, like, me as a lawyer who wants to rent an apartment, right, or anybody.
It is, I agree with you, it's a market rate rental unit that's being applied for.
Okay.
But it's extremely small, it's in a utility building. It's really more oriented to like someone like that. Most people wouldn't, like, I don't think you'd want to live in that place. It's very, you know, the use on the property that's proposed with the small unit is along with the main residence, is not out of keeping with the rural context that's described in the master plan and the sought-after overall fabric of the neighborhood and the area. It's consistent with everything that you see in these photos of the surrounding lots, which you can see on the left with the white outlines. Sorry, let me just see here. The AR, okay, so I talked about the consistency, the fact that the yards are quite large and well-kept. I wanted to mention that too, that the lawns are kept to where you can see where that line is that you were talking about, right at the edges, and it would be pretty obvious where to put that fence. I created another exhibit, which was actually, I think, maybe the third sheet, if you could scroll down. Yeah, that one. I just wanted to show you on that one, if you could go a little bit more to the right. You can see the two buildings, but then I hatched what somebody could build and still comply with the coverage requirements. So those two rectangles could still be added, let's say, as big accessory buildings and without any variances. Just to show that the site is really very underutilized as far as building coverage. It's only at 1.9% now, where it's allowed to go up to 12%, so that's what that was supposed to show. I had a lot more in my letter, which was attached to the application, about affordability. I'm not going to really go into that too much, but it is, even though it is a special reason, we're not going to totally rely on that here at this time. We decided.
I mean, I have to jump in. There are so many restrictions on making that unit affordable, to the point where your applicant would have no ability to dictate who could occupy that structure. It would have to be affirmatively marketed in the region. It would have to go against a lottery list of people that are already on lists for affordable units within the township. And I just want to say, for the record, the town has complied with its round 4 obligation, so this is not an affordable unit, and there's nothing in the application that's limiting that. So I would move on and find another special reason, because this is not affordable in terms of Big A satisfying the town's low and moderate income obligation under the Fair Housing Act.
Right, I agree with you, and I'm not trying to push on that issue. I just wanted to mention that it was in the letter, and I didn't want it to become a focal point. So as far as you have the hardship, you have the pre-existing non-conforming condition lasting for decades, and we have the size of the lot being suitable for 2 units, two residences. We can also look at the D2 purposes, the paragraph where we talk about the purposes of the municipal land use law. And you hear that more maybe with bulk variances, but they are applicable in use variances also. And I feel that we fulfill several of those purposes. I'm not going to go way into them, but basically, we're providing a needed residence in the area, which is consistent with the zone intent. It's going to be code compliant. We're improving safety somewhat by having the ability for the resident to work locally at the farms, even though I agree it's not restricted to a farm worker. But for all practical purposes, that is what's happening. We're improving safety and the environment by cutting down his commute. It improves light and air, the fact that we are not expanding these buildings. We're keeping a lot of light and air and yard between the two buildings and from the buildings to the sidelines. And, it talks about density, the residential, and then purpose I is one that's usually really key on these C2 or D2 type proofs. It's a D1 variance, but it's the second paragraph that has to do with the purposes of the municipal land use law. And purpose I talks about improvements to the street frontage or the design effect and the fact that this will be an improvement to the neighborhood and the street frontage. And I think we've already heard testimony that it has been cleaned up already and will be continuing to clean up with a new sign and all the invasive species and different weeds and things that have taken over in that front property, that front yard area, to make it a more attractive front.
Mr. Groden, you would agree that keeping farmland in open areas like this property in its current condition is a benefit to the town, and it's a good thing, keeping it the way it is, rather than having it more developed, correct?
Yes, it's going to help enhance the potential of keeping the agricultural.
So you're saying yes?
The agriculture, yes, the agricultural character of the property.
You heard the applicant testify about how he needs to have the farmhand living there to take care and maintain the property so he can keep it in that present state.
Yes.
So
Although
having this apartment for him, it would be a benefit, not only for the person living there, but for the whole town too, because it keeps and maintains that.
How exactly would that be a benefit to the whole town? I would love to know that.
It
It's a
keeps it-
benefit to this property owner and to the farmhand. But how would someone that lives down on Lanes Mill Road benefit from this?
Well, it would prevent having to subdivide the property and build more houses and keep one more farm in existence, even though it's not big enough to be farm assessed.
I think his main point.
The rural nature of the neighborhood, the same rural that it is
I
now.
think that we've gotten a little far afield in the planning testimony.
Yeah.
Number one, what goal of zoning are you advancing? And I take exception to using promote a desirable visual environment because cleaning up the site could be done if it was a single-family house. So the second structure, what goal of zoning would that second apartment advance?
Okay, well, I think that the goal of zoning in the ARA2 zone is to preserve the rural character, the agricultural fabric of Howell Township.
No, goal of zoning is section 2 of the MLUL. There's listed goals of zoning that are required to be provided as special reasons for a D1 variance. Which one of those goals under section 2 of the MLUL are you advancing?
Right, well, I know, I have them written here, the letters A through P, and I mentioned a few that I feel are being satisfied, goals A, C, and I realize that those are probably written more for larger projects or planning projects in the town, but usually the ones that you focus on for those purposes is purpose number I, which has to do with the street frontage and the improvement.
So
And
I
even for
would stop you. Purpose I is promoting a desirable visual environment. And you cleaning up the street frontage is required to be done whether it's a single-family house or the apartment is there or not. You're here for use variance to allow an apartment to be put or kept on this property. The goal of zoning that you're advancing has to be related to that. I also don't think you're promoting air, light, and open space because the structures are there. You're not promoting anything. So I would suggest perhaps we take 5 minutes, give him a minute to take a look at what those goals are.
Yes.
And then to come back.
I
with
was just
an
gonna
actual
ask that.
applicable to the legalization of this apartment. That's what the application is.
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
It's not developing the whole site. It's just the apartment. And so the goal of zoning has to be advanced by the continuation of that use.
Okay. I concur, and it's almost 8:30, so let's take a
Do we need a
5-minute break.
motion?
Yes,
Do we need a motion?
yes. We're going to
No.
make a motion to reset. No, we don't need a
Let's
motion.
just take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Kaplan.
Yes. I'm going to ask the board to carry this to the next meeting in July. I think it's the 13th.
It would be the 13th.
Yes, if we could, and we can have more on the planning aspect for, to satisfy that
Yes.
major, the main issue of the thing. But before we do that, I have Mr. Grogan here tonight, and I want to make sure that he doesn't have to come back. Is there any other questions, the board or any?
Does anybody have any further questions?
On other things?
Real quick, the square footage of the apartment that's inside the pole building, what's the square footage of that apartment?
John, could you scroll down to
At least 700
the
square
next
feet.
couple sheets?
While he's looking that up, I'll go through the other quick questions. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms in that apartment?
It's,
Basically, it was designed as kind of like a dorm up top.
Studio?
With 6 sleeping areas within a very small, like, second-level mezzanine almost.
No, that's not.
hold on.
I mean, there's
Okay.
this,
It's a one-bedroom. When I tell you one bedroom, you ain't putting 2 people in there. So,
Okay.
1 bathroom downstairs with the outside the kitchen area.
So it's on 2 floors?
Correct,
Okay, so 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 2 floors?
correct.
Okay,
The bedroom's upstairs by itself. The kitchen and the bathrooms are downstairs.
got it. Okay, so just as,
Yeah, and to give the board context, so scaling it on the plans, the first story, including washer, dryer, and mechanicals is about 413 square feet. And then the second story is about 458 square feet. So in total, it's around 870 square feet.
And there's no washer or dryer or anything like that in this place. Just wouldn't be sufficient room or probably.
well, those rooms are entered from the utility side. If you see the upper right corner there, those 2 rooms are what he's talking about, mechanical.
I mean,
But
that's
they're
the plan-
actually-
The plans show a washer and a dryer, so
Yeah.
you guys might want to look at your plans too.
No, I know, but I'm saying they're
That's in the
not
pole
entered
barn.
from the apartment. You have to go out into the utility building. It's used for both the utility people as well as the resident.
Hold on, wait.
Right.
Let's clarify this. Where's the washer dryer?
The washer and dryer are in the pole barn.
Which is the main house,
no.
the small house?
Right.
Okay.
The washer and dryer are in the pole barn in a separate cordoned-off area where there's a sink and, bathroom. So,
I have both plans, the lower and the upper level, on the document, so if you should be able to scroll and see both. To the right side is the rear building, the left side is the pole building. But there's another sheet that shows the other floors. Yeah, okay.
Those are the only questions that I had
Here's the
for
ground
Mr.
floor.
Rogan.
And you can see the door to the, there's like actually a toilet laundry for the utility building on the right there where you're pointing.
Washer and dryer?
Yes, but that's entered from the utility building, not from the apartment.
So the apartment doesn't use that?
They can still use it, but it's actually part of a little toilet room for the utility building.
And the main 4-bedroom dwelling has its own laundry room with a washer and dryer, correct?
I believe, yes, it
Yeah,
does.
so it services that
Okay.
unit also, but it's 870 square feet for both,
Okay, any further questions? This witness? Okay,
Rich, were you opening to public?
no,
Okay.
no, we're going to wait till the 13th.
You're not opening to the
public?
Not tonight.
I'll make a video when I get home, it's okay.
Oh, it's Joe.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
We should announce it.
Yeah, hold on. There are some board members that would, and our attorney would like to at least allow the public to come up. But I just ask everybody, just please come up, and, because we're going to hear this case again in 3 weeks, and you'll have an opportunity to come back. So at this time, I'll have a motion to open the public.
Second the motion, Bill.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, Chairman has opened the hearing for members of the public to ask questions or comment on this application. If you would like to speak, please come up to the podium. You would need to provide your name and address, and you will be sworn in.
Joe Bazonos, 150 Colts Neck Road,
You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
every time. I had no intention of coming up and speaking tonight. I'm here for a completely different
Yeah.
style of fish, all right? This case is the exact reason why I got involved and why you've seen my face and why you're going to keep seeing my face. This is a family man that he wanted to have a little compound for himself, for his daughter to have some horses. He inherited someone else's BS, and the hammer that I saw dropped on him tonight, it makes me sick. It makes me sick that this is an hour and a half for this. What is he doing? Can someone, is that picture still available of the property? Is that still available to be pulled up, please? Yeah, that's a grove. How is him doing anything there negatively impacting the community? It's been there, because some police officer probably had a buddy in the township in the 90s and whoosh, got his stuff put through. This guy's got to suffer. He's got a daughter and a wife sitting back there getting upset. This is nonsense. And I applaud some of our professionals for giving their opinion without giving their opinion. You guys make really good decisions. I've seen you make really good decisions. But think about this as well. What message are we sending to the hundreds of people that are fleeing Howell every year, every month? The people that are discouraged, the people that I talk to every single day. Every single day I talk to people that are discouraged, that want to leave, because they're watching stuff get put through that's nonsense. We're watching stuff pop up overnight because people know how to play by the rules, and they know how to find loopholes. This guy's before you trying to do the right thing for his family. Who's he hurting? Please. I want you to think about that in the coming weeks before you lead up to the next meeting. Who's he hurting in that oasis, that grove? Having a little apartment for a helper. Big deal. You're here as a zoning board because you have discretion, and you're supposed to step back and look at everything and then make a decision. Why is this a hard decision? Let's look at some of our cul-de-sacs that have people here every other Tuesday complaining about nonsense projects that are put up because of loopholes. This guy's here before you trying to do the right thing. And I think you know it's the right thing. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
When is it getting carried to?
The 13th.
July 13th.
Betty Velez Gimbel, 97 Victory Road.
She has to
do
be
anything?
sworn, Andy.
Oh,
Andy?
sorry. You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your service, of course. I do want to commend Bernie for doing the right thing. It seems that the moment that he realized something was not right, the people were vacated from the premises. Is that right?
Correct.
Am I
yes.
right? Okay. And as I said, just doing the right thing all around. This, it seems like, and to no offense at all, I'm a farm girl, so as far as the pole barn is concerned, those who have farms are used to having washers and dryers and things in these pole barns for their animals, blankets and things like that. It doesn't seem that these quarters are really an actual apartment. Is this an actual apartment?
I mean, it's not an apartment that probably.
It's more like a bunking room or
Yeah,
whatnot?
It's made for.
For the caretaker of the farm? Okay.
It's actually nicer than.
Okay, and I know that right now it's not considered a farm because it lost its farm assessment, but we do know that if if the farm is able to produce 50,000 or more in agricultural production, then it will qualify as a commercial farm. But however, we won't get to know that, whether or not there's the potential there. My concern is that I know that this gentleman is a businessman, and if this potential farm doesn't have what it needs in the future as far as a caretaker right now, as he's expressed, we won't know the potential of this property as becoming a farm. It will more than likely, as many business owners do, be subdivided and sold for 2 single-family dwellings. That is my concern. And we definitely are, as a whole, for this town, wanting to preserve the rural character of Howell at any point that we can. And I'm glad that you had a farm caretaker, because I know how much work it is, and at some point I hope to have one as well. But I just want to make sure I look at my little notes here. I'm just floored by the hardship that you've had to endure, and I didn't know it was an ARE2 zone. I thought it was an ARE3 zone, so that concerns me a lot. Thank you so much.
Okay, Betty, thank you. Anybody else?
You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record, spell your last.
Dan Carbonic, 6 Kingsport, Karbownik. So I had this whole speech written out, but I mean, a lot of what I was going to say was kind of said already. For what it's worth, I've actually been to the property. When this happened to Bernie, he called me for some advice. I am, a local realtor. I'm also on the planning board and also a landlord in town, so I had some knowledge, and he knew that. So he called me, and I went over there and tried to figure out like as much as I could about it and give him the best advice I could, and let him know the first time I talked to him, like, you might find yourself in front of the zoning board for a variance, because it seemed like it was a second unit with no, permitted use for that in the zone. I appreciate all the questions here tonight, and I realize like it's a pretty confusing property. It seems confusing because it is confusing, I think, at the end of the day. There was a lot of confusion about it in the beginning, but, you have to believe, I guess, that somebody built a house there without permits, which seems wild, right? Like, it seems nuts, but it seems like that's what happened. And it was also farm assessed at some point, but you need 5 acres of continuous land to be farming. And we have testimony, we know that those structures were there at least as far back as 1995. And it should never have been farm assessed after that, I guess. So there's a lot of just weirdness with the property, ultimately. And I think what it comes down to, like Betty just said, and maybe Joe before him as well, is like Bernie is ultimately trying to do the right thing. That's why he's here. He's a longtime Howell resident, a local business owner, upstanding member of the community, who's trying to seek even deeper roots in the community by potentially having this property for his daughter to use. And I think that's the kind of people that we want in Howell, the people that are invested in Howell for the long term. He's not somebody that came along and did something, bought it last year, did something without approvals, and is trying to ask for forgiveness after the fact instead of permission up front. These structures clearly been there for like 40 years, at least, and he's just trying to legitimize it now and actually do the right thing, which I think is commendable. And I think, for whatever discretion you guys have as a zoning board to vote on these things, I think this is the type of applicant who you want to look favorably on in these sorts of situations. I also was going to say, I don't want to stand here and make technical arguments for the approval of the variance. He's got his professionals for that. But as someone who was at the property, I do think it lays out, very, very nicely to have this sort of use, the way it's laid out. That, I guess if we're looking at that in, up is north and down is south, I don't know the exact orientation, but that rental unit is on, the southern part of the pole barn, and the deck is off the back in such a way, if you're hanging out there, you can't even see the single-family home. It's very separated in such a way that it makes a lot of sense to actually have two rental units there. They don't really, conflict with each other, I would say. So I think and it's super private. I mean, the gravel driveway is, 150 feet or something off the road, and it's so covered with trees, you could drive by that property and never know any of it was there anyway. So it actually does, I think, kind of lay out pretty nice. And I know there was discussion about, the benefit to the community and things like that. I mean, I think we all know, housing is just kind of nuts these days, and it's really hard to find something affordable. That, I would consider it a one-bedroom or even efficiency rental apartment. I mean, at a market rate, maybe it's $2,000 a month or under. There's very few places in Howell you could rent for $2,000 a month or under. So even if it's not the farmhand use and it's a market rate, which I think is actually the argument in the application, I think we're kind of putting the farm thing aside. To have a one-bedroom rental unit in Howell that somebody could, again, grow roots in the community and maybe buy a house later, to be able to get in for under $2,000 is a nice benefit to the community, I would say, at least to that person who'd be renting it. I guess the last thing I would say is I know Jen might not like me saying this based on her previous comment she made earlier, but there are other multi-structure rental units in the ARE2 zone. I don't know how they got there. I don't know the history of how they got there. But I know for a fact there's one a few lots down, I think at 438 Brickyard it might be. It's registered as a rental, 438, 438A, 438B. And if you can see it on Google Street View, there's literally two separate structures on the property. And that property is actually less than an acre, whereas this is 5 acres. Those properties are much closer to the road, and there's 3 mailboxes out front. So I actually think there might be a third unit, but maybe that's a primary, I don't know. So I don't think it would actually even be necessary. I can't say it wouldn't be setting a precedent, because I don't know how those properties came to be, but there are other similar things like this in the ARE2 zone. That was pretty much it. So bottom line, I think, just to summarize, I think he's trying to do the right thing here. I don't think it's outlandish to have these uses on this property. And that's about it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Jimmy Harmick. I live at 429 Brickyard next door.
Hi. Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Sure, yes. My only concern is the wetlands. When I went to apply for my barn, they wouldn't accept the GIS, made me get an LOI with a 150-foot barrier. That's my main concern.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Motion to close the public?
Motion by Mr. Cantor.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kabarakis. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Kaplan, I guess at this point, we'll pick up on the 13th. We will have you the first applicant for that night.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So
So
you back on?
Rich, so for those here who,
Yes.
this is carried to July 13th, no further notice?
No further
Lisa,
notice.
what's the date of
And
the
the expiration already is August 18th, so we're good.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about that, but no
No.
further notice will be given. So if you want to come back, we'll be here on the 13th.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good night. Bless you.
Excuse me, thank you.
Okay, at this time we'll go to our next application, case number BA 26-08, AASTHW Property LLC, seeking a use variance and preliminary and final site plan with auxiliary variance relief. Application AASTHW Property LLC as applicant and Chestnut Fairfield Holdings LLC as owners, seeking approval to change the use of a previous approved warehouse to a manufacturer of plastic bottles and containers and increase the office space from 10,000 square feet to 12,000. I believe that would be 12,000 square feet, and add silos in the area previously approved for loading docks on premise known as Block 168, Lot 17, 18, 19.02, 19.04, and 19.08, 308, and 413 Fairfield Road with an expiration September 24th, 2026.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Salvatore Alfieri on behalf of the applicant. As the board chairman indicated, this property is on Fairfield Road. It was approved by the planning board in 2023 for the same size warehouse. The current owners of the contract purchasers, applicant, started doing some of the site improvement work. They did not start construction of the building. They were close to full resolution compliance. And then this user who's about to testify came along, and we feel it's a much better use for the community and for the property, less impact. And therefore, we shifted gears, and we now wanted to go forward with this occupant who would occupy the entire building as opposed to what was previously potentially two unknown users. We have several witnesses we're going to call directly, and then we have many other witnesses who will be here to answer questions in case the board or members of the public have questions. We've received all of the professional reports, inter-office reports, etc. We'll be prepared to address all of those comments during our testimony. We're going to start with Russ Smith, who is a principal of the potential applicant.
Okay, do you want to get everybody sworn in first, or do you want to just go and get testimony?
Whatever works for you.
Let's get everybody sworn in,
Okay.
and then that way it's on record.
Yeah. We don't intend on calling all of them, but just in case.
You're scaring me, Sal.
I know, we're not going to call them all.
It's good they long enough to tell everyone's name. Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, state your name for the record.
Russ Smith.
Okay,
Kristen Shepherd.
okay.
Jeremy Lang. Dan Desario. Predrag Petric.
Can you say that again when spelled?
Predrag Petric.
Okay. And?
Howell Lamb.
Okay. Professionals are sworn.
And we're going to start with Mr. Smith.
Okay.
First, identify yourself, what your relationship is to the potential user, FlexCraft.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Russ Smith. I am one of four brothers who own and operate FlexCraft, and I am here tonight as the prospective owner and occupant of the proposed property. Three of the four of us are here in the audience tonight as well. I've prepared a brief statement to give you an overview of our company and our operations, and then I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. FlexCraft is our family business. It was founded by our father in the 1970s. My brothers and I have owned and operated the business for the past 15 years. We're born and raised in New Jersey, and we are very committed to continuing to grow and invest in New Jersey for many years to come. Our company manufactures plastic bottles, containers, and closures for the medical, nutraceutical, food, and beverage industries. They're industries with very high standards for quality, cleanliness, and safety. And as a result, we run a very clean, controlled operation with high standards inside and outside of the building. We employ approximately 140 people right now, and many of those people have been with us for decades. And we continue we intend to continue that tradition of long-term employment here in Howell. We want this to be a very beautiful site that meets and exceeds the standards expected by our customers, our employees, and the township. Briefly, I'll explain kind of what our business does inside the building so you can get a clear understanding of that. as some people have brought up, small plastic pellets get delivered to our site. These plastic pellets are called resin. They get delivered to our site in bulk trucks and then stored in the outdoor silos that you see on the site plan. It's a very clean, safe way to store those materials. The material is then conveyed from those silos directly into our building and into our machines that melt the plastic and form those pellets into various different bottles, containers, and closures, which are essentially caps. We do this through two processes, blow molding and injection molding. They're not chemical processes. We're not, burning anything or emitting any chemicals or anything of the sort. We are not manufacturing plastics. We're simply taking plastic pellets that are already made and simply heating them up and changing the physical properties into bottles and the other components that I just discussed. All of our equipment is state-of-the-art, and we use what's called closed-loop systems. So any scrap materials that are generated from our process, we reuse in the production line so that the scrap gets kind of reground and reused and turned into the bottle, so there's very, very little waste. There's no detectable odor associated with our facility, which might come to a surprise to people. We can say that firsthand, though, because our current facility is surrounded by residential. We've been there since 2015, and we have never had an odor complaint. Other than the resin silos and some cooling equipment that are on the site plan, all of our manufacturing equipment is located inside of our building. Excuse me. So that really contains the noise, and it also really contains any production activity associated with the proposed facility. Our production runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but the schedule is less kind of disruptive than that phrase might suggest. We have approximately 20 office and administrative employees that work normal kind of Monday through Friday schedules. And then we have production personnel that work in 4 teams that rotate 12-hour shifts. So at any given point in time, Monday through Friday is where there will be the maximum amount of people in the building. Right now it's 20, but if there are 140 employees, 120 production, that's 20 office staff Monday through Friday, plus 1 team of 30 employees in the building at any given time. So we have an exhibit that'll kind of outline that in a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to give an understanding so people understand it's not 140 people at any one point in time that are going to be in the building. It's a lot less than that because of the nature of the shift work. We selected this location because it's very well suited for our type of operation. From the property line of this facility, there's no outdoor production, there's no detectable odor, and there's no activity outside of the building other than normal shipping and receiving. We bring stable manufacturing jobs to the town, significant long-term investment, and we're committed to maintaining a very beautiful property that meets the high expectations of customers, employees, and the town. And we look forward to being here for a long time if you guys will have us. We're very proud of the business we have built, and we're excited about the opportunity to continue to grow here in Howell. Thank you very much for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may
I
have.
just have a couple quick follow-ups, and then obviously we'll open you up to questions. First is, we're proposing, and the engineer will get into a little more detail, we're going to have 86 parking stalls on site now in the most recent plan configuration. You're comfortable that that's adequate for your use, whether it's current use or proposed growth?
Yeah, that's significantly more than we need.
So you don't anticipate having more than 50 or 60 people on site at any one time?
Right now, absolutely not. Short-term growth, definitely not as well.
And then in terms of visitors, will there be active visitors that might use some of the excess parking spaces? Like how frequently do you get visitors and what type of volume?
Yeah, we definitely do get some visitors. It's normally, a customer maybe once every 2 weeks. That's, that would be a lot. Sometimes we have suppliers or different people coming to visit and see the facility as well, but it's never more than another call it 2 to 5 people per week.
So you're comfortable with the parking?
Very comfortable.
What about spill control? I know there was some concern. I saw the Environmental Commission's report about potential spill control of some of the pellets that might escape the process. Can you discuss that?
Yeah, so we take that very seriously. The way the trucks connect to our property, the trucks hook up to hoses that then go into the silos. Under those hoses, we have catch basins to kind of capture anything that could potentially spray out of the hose. So that's all kind of taken care of. Pellet loss is also just something that's very common in the industry. We are actively working to join something called Operation Clean Sweep. Operation Clean Sweep is an industry initiative that has tons of training, self-reporting, different rules and regulations that you have to abide by in order to get to zero pellet loss. So that's kind of what we're striving for. And, you know, we take it very seriously as not only the operators, but the landowners as well. We do not want to have any issues with that.
And I know a subsequent witness is going to discuss this, but there are NJDEP permitting requirements for some of your equipment and potentially the use?
For some of the equipment most of it is, you know, there is nothing required because they're they're not invasive, they don't give off chemicals or anything like that. Everything that is required, we abide by all the rules, all the regulations, anything that needs to be registered is. We work with the NJDEP on that, and we have a schedule. We're well below any sort of limits that they impose.
So we have this.
Hours of operation?
So we run 24/7.
24 hours. Is there a reason?
Just production. These are, you know, it's expensive to start and stop machines. There are certain products that we run on one machine, and the volume of those products, it's just full capacity, so there's not really time to shut down. So it's just an efficient way to operate.
So basically, it would just be the employees coming in and out?
Yes. Yeah, we primarily ship Monday through Friday, 7 to 7.
And
but we do
deliveries?
during the same hours.
Okay. That's all I have. Charlie, Jen?
Yeah, so as far as the raw materials actually come to the site, so it's all recycled pellets, right? Nothing's raw, like liquid chemicals, and you're not manufacturing the plastics on the site. You're taking recycled pellets and then making those into plastic products, correct?
They're not all recycled, but that is correct to say they are all plastic pellets that are already converted made into plastic.
So some third party is making the plastic pellets off-site, and they're just getting shipped to the site, and then you're either heat or injecting, molding them inside the facility into plastic products?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. And then, so the transfer operation, they come in like a tanker truck, and then how is that connected to the silos, and how is that transferred?
So they come in on pneumatic trucks. It's all gravity conveyed down to the bottom of the trucks, and then there's a hose that goes from the bottom right into a hose that connects to the silo, and gravity just feeds it into the silo. And then under it, we have catch basins in case there is any potential runoff that we will then just capture, but it's very rare.
So those catch basins you talk about, are those separate from the storm conveyance catch basins that tie into the stormwater system for the site, or is there going to be a separate catch basin isolated to the silos just to capture if there is an event where, you know, under normal operating procedures, the pipe burst or the cam lock comes loose or something like that?
It's two separate things.
Okay,
But
and your engineer will...
The engineer will address that, but there are two different precautions that we have in place.
Okay, and then the environmental, and Sal, this might be a question for you, they made a recommendation about a separate, like spill and prevention plan being a condition of the approval, you know, similar to like how there would be a stormwater operation and maintenance manual where if there is an event, you know, it would be reported to so-and-so, and here's what the steps would be to make sure. I think the concern is, right, plastics, they're probably still floatable if they get into a storm system. Like, you know, we don't want this flowing downstream into some neighboring property or into downstream water courses. Is that something the applicant's amenable to, Sal?
I believe so, yes, but our next witness will comment.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, yes.
All right.
How big are the pellets?
I don't know how to quantify them. They're small.
Dime, quarter?
They're smaller than a dime.
Like a,
Thank you.
Like the little nubs you find on AstroTurf?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good,
Yeah, that's a good representation.
All right, and then I think the Environmental Commission also had questions about, so there's 9 silos, and then there's also 2 transformers outside the building, and then there's 3 cooling type of equipment. How does that work? And it's on a closed loop, how does that whole process work?
I am not an expert on that, but I can speak to it briefly. The equipment outside are chillers, and the chillers are simply, they cool process water. The water doesn't touch any of our material or anything, it just runs through pipes, cold water that then runs through the molds so that it can give the proper temperatures in the molds to properly shape the wall thickness of the bottles.
Okay, so the water that's used in that system, does it come from the potable water from the public right away? Do you have a private well that you're proposing to supplement that? I know that the response to the Environmental Commission talks about how it's a closed loop and recirculate the water and everything like that, but I imagine at some point you might have to add new water to the system or something like that. So where does that water come from, and then where is it disposed of?
Jeremy.
Our next witness.
Jeremy's going to talk about that? Okay.
We have an engineer who's going to talk to that.
Okay. As far as, so there's, when we'll talk to the site engineer, apparently there's 84 parking spaces now. So you've got 20 who are working office and admin that are there from 8 to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and then you have the 4 continuous shifts that just continue to rotate, and that's 30 maximum employees per shift. So shifts start at 7 a.m. and end at 7 p.m., and then the next shift starts thereafter. So there is some period where you're going to have 60 employees on the site parking on that changeover, right?
Correct, yes.
So, and that's, with those 20 office admin, that's 80, and we're going to have 86 parking spaces, correct?
Correct.
All right. As far as the tractor trailer bays, so there is reduction, down a couple spaces from what the planning board approved. How are those operations? So once you've made the bottles, like how many trucks are coming in and out of the day, on a daily basis? Do they only happen during normal business hours, 8 to 5 p.m.? Are they also 24/7? Give the board some context on that.
So our outbound shipping is primarily 7 to 7, Monday through Friday. There are some occasions of off-hour shipping, but that's, the exception, not the rule. We're not a logistics facility that's just constantly bringing trucks in and out all day at all hours. So the bulk of our trucks, and we ship right now about 15 trucks outbound per day. As we grow, we expect to, over the next year or two, depending upon how successful we are growing, we could see that expanding, to call it 30 outbound trucks per day. And then on the inbound, right now we're around 8 trucks of inbound material every week. So significantly less volume than you would see in your standard kind of warehouse 3PL logistics operation.
Yeah, it's not a one-per-one volume transfer of material, right? You're coming from things with low void space, and then you're blowing them into larger containerized volumes.
Yeah, we ship a lot of air.
Okay. As far as the 30 outbound per day, is that just general over the 12 hours on a normal day? Just it's dispersed, or is anything concentrated, like in the morning rush from 7 to 9 a.m., or just give some context on that?
There is no rush. We have a dock scheduler. We try and schedule them steadily out throughout the day so that it doesn't overburden our shipping staff, and then so it also doesn't, rub the truckers the wrong way if they're sitting around waiting.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So you have 22 loading docks, and you're saying you're going to grow to about 30 outbound per day. So there's going to be some limitation on the number of loading docks as far as how much is coming out. And then roughly, like, internal to the building, so it's 202,000 plus or minus gross floor area. Like, what's an approximate breakdown of, like, what's office, what's actual manufacturing, what's warehousing, because you probably have to store some of that inventory before you can get it out, correct?
Correct. So I don't have the exact breakdown, but I can provide that for you. I believe we're proposing around 12,000 square foot of office. And then it really depends upon how we lay out the manufacturing machines to what constitutes manufacturing versus pure warehousing. But all the warehousing we do is just, bags and boxes, let's say, that we're packaging our products in. And then most of it is staged product that's either going right onto drop trailer trucks that could be backed up to the loading docks. And we try and obviously turn that as quickly as we can. But I would probably say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 50% manufacturing.
I think that's all I have for right now. I might have more questions,
Yeah.
follow up, but that's all I have right now.
You're good, Jen? Yeah.
What attracted you to this site?
So it's very close to our current facility. We're currently located in Neptune City, so it's a straight shot on 33.
Is that going to stay open? You're going to do both?
No, we're planning to have this as our headquarters. So this is going to be our main facility. This is where everyone is going to be working. I mentioned earlier that we have a lot of long-term employees. We want to keep the employees that we have, so location is very important to us. We have a lot of employees that live in the area. This is a very good location for everyone without having to go, to far North Jersey or, somewhere else that doesn't make as much sense. Everyone at our company are kind of members of Monmouth County in this community, and that was a very big driver for us. It's also an approved site for a warehouse. So the fact that, with many manufacturing uses already approved on this site as well, so kind of all of those things together, the fact that it is small frontage, so we can have a very attractive looking building and do what we need to do and not have to have, residents around us. It's another warehouse next to us. It's New Jersey Natural Gas building across the street. So we're able to kind of bring good jobs, what we like to think is a strong business that's going to be around for a long time, and operate in an area that's going to have a warehouse and trucking environment anyway, and we feel we can bring a use to that site that will be more beneficial to the town and allow us to continue to grow and be efficient.
Thank you.
I apologize, just
Yeah, no.
two more follow-up questions. So as far as refuse and storage, outdoor storage, anything like that, so there's a commitment there will be no outdoor storage in any of the parking areas or drive aisles, because it is a pretty large site because of the tractor trailers and things that come into the site. So no outdoor storage other than refuse, normal office type of paper, cardboard, normal waste in the refuse areas, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, in addition to the silos. So the silos are kind of outside of the...
Yeah, I would say that's a structure, so it would be storage and, yeah.
And then also, there will be, the truck trailers backing up to the property. Those are called, sometimes we have drop trailers there, so a truck might drop a trailer and will run product into the trailer. So it'll still be connected to the building, fully enclosed, and that's it, but then that moves very quickly as well.
Okay. And then the second question that I had, and you're obviously aware that this had a planning board approval for a warehouse, and I believe as part of that, it was restricted that truck movements entering and exiting the site had to go to north on Fairfield Road to Route 33. You're aware of that, and that's going to be something the applicants, you're amenable to as a condition of this if
And
the
our
board is...
traffic engineer will get up, but yeah, we're going to comply with all the conditions of prior
Okay.
approval.
Thanks.
Any other board members? Yes, Nick.
Speaking of the pellets, and Charlie mentioned recycled pellets, or what they call waste plastic pellets, or are they virgin pellets? Because there's a difference in the hazardous emittance, pollutants between virgin pellets versus recycled pellets.
Yeah, so we take in both virgin and PCR, or recycled pellets. So we do use both. The potency or they're not toxic. what's more important versus like the virgin versus recycled is the type of material. So for example, PVC is a very, it's been banned from California. We manufacture mostly with PET, if you look on the bottom of a bottle, that's a #1 recyclable. So that's the most environmentally friendly, easy to recycle, whether that is virgin or regrind. And HDP, which is #2, kind of same thing, very easy to recycle, very common. There's a lot of it if you just look around this room. We actually, one of our products that's really helped us grow, we've actually been replacing a PVC bottle. And when I say replacing, we've never made the PVC bottle, but we made a sustainable, environmentally friendly alternative to a PVC bottle that is doing very well in the marketplace because it is environmentally friendly, it is a #1 recyclable, and it's getting a lot of those PVC bottles off the shelf. So that's a food and beverage product. It's also the handleware that you probably see with like ice melt and stuff in the winter with the little pellets in it. So yeah, it's not.
So
we
your,
do a combination of both virgin and
so your waste pellets are HDPE and PTE?
PET. Yes,
As-
HDP and PET.
So is that like a mixture of virgin and recycle?
No, so
Or you,
if it's recycled, virgin is just coming directly from the manufacturer of the plastic. So virgin means it hasn't been used or processed before.
right,
The regrind, when I was talking about a closed loop system, when we generate any sort of scrap, we are then taking that regrind or waste plastic and reusing it all into the same bottle. So it's the same material. We're never necessarily mixing different materials. It's all virgin or regrind PET or virgin or regrind HDP, and those get used to make the product.
so the emittance of pollutants are the same between the two, of the two?
Yeah, and I'd argue there's not an emittance of pollutions in the process.
At all?
No, there's no odor, there's no waste. It's simply just heating up the plastic that then gets kind of molded. But if you walk through our factory, or outside the factory or anything, there's no odor or smoke or anything you'd see. There's no chemical reaction.
No volatile organic compounds that happen during the process?
No, there's not.
There's no possibility of it?
So it is.
Like if you overburn, like if
Yeah,
there...
if you overburn, it is possible that you can burn the plastic.
So what happens at that point? Does that get captured, or does it get...
On our machines, there are temperature controls that before it gets to that point, it'll shut the machine down.
All right, so there's a safety feature,
There is, yes,
so it doesn't release into the atmosphere.
correct, yes.
Do we want to have the engineer maybe talk about other possible pollutants, water, soil?
We'll have them come over.
Okay. All right, that's all I have right now.
Anybody else?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
So just based on what I'm reading up on the company, whatever, you guys have had no EPA, DEP violations, nothing like that? Kind of tie into what he's talking about?
Correct, yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
I have a few quick questions. Will any equipment be brought over from any of the other facilities that you own, or is everything going to be brand new in this facility?
So everything's going to be coming from the Neptune City facility to this facility, and then we'll also be adding new equipment. Everything we have in that, I shouldn't say everything, but a lot of that equipment is very new. We've been growing pretty rapidly, so a lot of the equipment is new. We're right now getting into a lot of like all-electric equipment. Those machines will be coming here as well. So it is a transfer from Neptune City to here.
Okay. Other question for you, Mrs. Smith. What kind of mandatory environmental inspections are you responsible, or is this type of facility responsible for complying with on a regular basis?
So we're registered with the DEP. We have an engineering staff that is, working with them at all time, and they measure the different machines and what comes from the machines. And there's like a rate of acceptability, all of which we're well under. And I think they'll talk about that in more detail as well.
Who will talk more about that? I'm sorry. The engineer?
Yeah, the engineer will come
The
in.
engineer, okay.
And we have other environmental professionals there too, but
Okay.
I think we could do it with the engineer.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yep.
What size trucks? Outbound, inbound?
The vast majority are 53-footers. So, you know, standard tractor trailer.
Standard tractor trailer?
Yep.
For your inbound product, do your pellets?
Oh, I'm sorry. The inbound pellets, they're smaller than that, but they're, I don't really know how to explain them. They kind of look like the trucks that carry, you know,
A tanker
oil.
type.
Like a tanker
gas.
truck?
Yeah, they're filled with pellets, and those
Okay.
we get about 8 per week inbound.
And your outbound ones are the 52-footers?
Yes, correct, 52-footers.
Okay. And that's outbound, 15 trucks right now, and you estimate maybe up to 30 trucks in the future?
Correct.
Outbound?
Per day, yes.
And
Per day.
inbound is 8 per week?
Correct, yes.
So the site you operate in Neptune, you're currently operating there 24/7? Have you received any complaints regarding noise from neighbors regarding the activities? And like, is there a reason you're leaving there to come to Howell to like make it better?
So we've outgrown the building in Neptune City. We're currently renting an off-site 45,000 square foot warehouse in Tinton Falls. So the primary reason that we're moving is to streamline our operation and to just make the whole operation more efficient. We do have a very good relationship with the people around us, and that's being way closer to people, you know, surrounded. Our entire property is surrounded by residential.
Where was the actual location, Neptune City?
So we're off of West Sylvania Avenue,
West Sylvania?
right near the school.
It's across the street from the recycling center.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have, to your point about neighboring complaints, there is one neighbor exactly on the corner closest to our property. We have a good relationship with him. He has my cell phone number, my brother's cell phone numbers, and he will call us in the rare instance when a truck is there, when they shouldn't be and it's loud, and we take it very seriously to, you know, we've called the police to try and get them off there, and that's something we can't control.
Now, is that inbound or outbound trucks?
It's hard to say. You know, we have one of our own trucks. All of the other trucks coming in and out of the facility are directed either by our suppliers or our customers. But we have signs up everywhere. We know when we're booking appointments, like everyone kind of knows the hours to come. And again, that's a house that is, you know, you could throw a football to it from our loading dock. So it's incredibly close, and the complaints are very, very rare.
But this new site, you're going to have silos for all the material transfer into the facility, right? At the existing site, do you have a silo or any?
We do, and that's right by his house.
Okay.
The silo in our existing facility is inside of the building, but the sound and the process of getting it in is still outside.
Okay. What, like, give us an idea of, like, what does that sound like in the transfer? Is it like?
It's like, if you picture like some gumballs, if you had some gumballs in a cup or something and you shook it, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. But on this site, right, so you're at the furthest southwest corner of the building, which abuts another warehouse, which abuts a solar field. There is some residents nearby, but you have going to have a substantial building between where those activities occur and where those neighboring residences are, correct? All right. That's all I have for now.
Okay, well, getting back to one of your answers, you said there's a neighbor that occasionally calls, he has your number, right? In Neptune City, your location, do they have restrictions on the times, and that's why he's calling you, because you are out of the time frame that it's permitted, or?
Yeah, so in Neptune City, we don't ship at night, and he knows that we do that to appease the neighbors. You know, it's just general kind of truck traffic. So that is, in the instance when that happens, that is why he calls. You know, it's not necessarily that it's abnormally loud or anything, it's just that it is so.
Okay, but technically, there are conditions on the time
Correct,
with
yes.
deliveries, okay. I
And
just want to have that on record.
Yeah, and I would just add, like any other commercial business, if they're not compliant with the noise ordinance, then they would be in a violation, and then code enforcement would come out, right? So they'd have to modify their operating procedures if it caused an issue with the noise ordinance.
Okay.
I do have another question. I probably missed it. And because I think Mike asked, how often are the DEP inspections?
They're not inspections, I think it's a filing, but I'm not entirely
So
sure.
nobody comes to inspect to make sure everything's running
But
properly?
they did this year.
What was that?
They have come, yes, and it's not like a regular thing, though, to my knowledge.
So DEP does not come out on a regular basis to inspect your facility?
I don't believe so.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay,
Jeremy?
we'll get your engineer up, get him his qualifications.
There, thanks, you can sit back.
Good evening, Jeremy Lang, Director of Development for Active Acquisitions.
And we'll need your qualifications on record.
Wait, you gotta swear him in?
He was sworn in.
I didn't hear. Oh, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. I
yeah,
forgot
we-
about when
we
the
beat
crowd
you
came
to
up.
it.
I
There's a
apologize.
large crowd, Sal.
So Jeremy,
Yeah.
you have two, I guess, two hats you're wearing. One is you're a employee or principal of Active, and you're also an expert, an engineer.
Yes, I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, but really my testimony this evening is more factual in nature to describe the air permitting and so forth that is necessary.
So we're really offering him as a fact witness for tonight. Thank you.
Sounds like it could be a crossover a little, Sal,
Well,
depending.
you could, he is a licensed professional engineer, and your license is in good standing?
Correct.
Just in case there's
Just in case.
crossover.
Okay.
There's
I'm sorry, it's Jeremy.
Lang, Lange.
Okay, we accept your qualifications.
Testimony is, tonight is,
There's going to be some
It's going to be a combination of operations, probably might cross into some civil engineering.
But it's not going to tie into planning or anything.
No, and we have
Yeah.
a civil engineer who's going to talk about site
Okay.
details.
So, good with-
Go ahead,
Okay.
Jeremy.
Okay, so one thing, and I'll just correct this real quick before I get into the rest of my testimony, on the parking. So the shift change times, 7 to 7, are offset from the office times. So the maximum parking is the 60 when you have the two 30-person shifts, switching. You know, you got 30 people coming in, 30 people going out. If they don't all come and go at the exact same time, you could have as many as 60 cars. But those shift changes bracket, they're outside of the office folks coming in. So the office people aren't coming in until the departing shift has departed, or vice versa. The office people depart before the incoming shift has arrived, because they're 8 to 5 versus 7 to 7. So that offset is done very intentionally so that it's a 60-person max, and it's for a very brief period of time when the two shifts are changing over. So I just wanted to make that clear. So the actual peak parking demand, other than the occasional visitor, you heard Mr. Smith testify to that, is 60. We have 86 stalls, so there's a 26-stall surplus, which can easily handle the visitors, as you heard from the prior testimony.
So this is a two-shift operation, 7 to 7?
Correct, two-shift operation. There's 4 teams of people, but only 2 per day.
Okay.
but the truck deliveries are 7 AM to 7 PM?
Primarily. The truck deliveries are scheduled here to be 24/7 as well, but the vast majority of them happen during the day, because that's, they have a logistics office. There's actually 3 different office spaces in the building, and one of them's a logistics office, so they're controlling, the arrival and departure of trucks so that it happens in an organized, manner. They're not getting everybody showing up at once or, and not having things ready to go. So that, the majority happens during the day, but they do have occasional, sometimes a customer will need more product on a more emergent basis, and they'll ship it out, or a guy's late because he hit traffic. There is a reason for night traffic. They're building brand new, this is build-to-suit for them to own. They want to be here long-term. They're already a very long-term fixture in Monmouth County. They intend to stay that way. You heard the prior testimony. They have a lot of employees that have been with them for decades. That's why they're trying to stay within a radius of Neptune. It makes sense. And that's where, this site really became ideal. As we already had the approval for the warehouse. The building was exactly the size they were looking for. It just, we had to do very little changing. Really, the silos was the biggest change we made on the whole project to accommodate them. Other than that, it was pretty much good to go. So, that's a big part of why they're choosing this location.
All right, so can you talk a little bit about the DEP permitting?
So, as you heard, there's no chemical reactions on the site, there's no combustion on the site, so the air releases here are very de minimis, so much so that this site is within all the criteria for a general permit 016A, which is manufacturing and materials handling equipment. So there's an air permit that exists, it's like a general air permit statewide for specifically manufacturing materials handling equipment, such as what's here. And then there's a series of conditions, there's a bunch of definitions and thresholds, all which have to be met, a lot of prescriptive standards that have to be met to qualify for this general permit. So what they do is they have to register for this permit. In order to do that, though, they have to calculate for every piece of equipment in the building, every piece individually. They have to take its maximum capacity, so in other words, how much product it can run through it, as if it was full tilt, 24/7, 365. And then they have to take the highest emitting material that it processes, whatever plastic that it can handle, that it uses, that has the most emissions, and then run that for the full year, 24/7. And then it comes up with a pollutant loading for that specific piece of equipment. Then they have to aggregate for every piece of equipment. They have to add all that together. And they not only do that for the injection and blow molding equipment, but even some of the other stuff you might not think about, like they have the grinders, I think Mr. Smith mentioned, they have blenders, they have vacuum machines that move the stuff around. Every piece of that equipment is also evaluated. And there's two main categories that apply to this use. One is VOCs, and the other is particulate matter. And in both cases, they're well under the threshold. So in the case of VOCs, they're at 11% of the threshold to become a major air permit. That's where the threshold is. They're at 4% of the way, 11% of the way there. And then in particulate matter, they're only 4% of that threshold. So not only are they within the general permit criteria, they're well under it. They also look at, for individual chemicals, the EPA has a bunch of chemicals, and New Jersey's adopted that by and large. And they evaluate for individual chemicals as well, again, well under the threshold. So that's why they qualify for this general permit. So they register for the permit, and then every time they get a new piece of equipment where something changes, they have to register again for the permit. So it is audited. So the state can come in at any time. It's not a regular schedule, but they can come in at any time and audit the permit. And they do, even though it's not part of the DEP in terms of specifically air quality, they do get regularly audited. As Mr. Smith mentioned, a lot of their customers are either in medical or in food. So, the safety, the cleanliness, all of that is very important. So they have a separate process, that they have to adhere to. So there's a combination of good management practices, and that's kind of like the rules of the road, like the speed limit, stop sign. And then there's a certification, and that's the Safe Quality Food Certification, and that is an internationally recognized standard. And that third-party auditor does come in annually, and they inspect everything, soup to nuts, in terms of the quality, the cleanliness, are they meeting all the specifications, particularly for the food and medical grade stuff. So like I said, you'd be surprised when you're in a facility like this, and I've done industrial work most of my career, and there's some industries that are pretty dirty. You come out, you got to wash your hands. This is not that kind of place. You can eat off the floors in here. It's that level of cleanliness, and I've had the pleasure of working for multiple of these types of operations over the years, not just in plastic, but in all kinds of different areas. And I'm always impressed how clean they can keep a manufacturing operation. So it's not like a car manufacturing plant or something you might have in your head, or some kind of iron, smelting operation or something like that that's like heavy industry. This is not that at all. This is truly, light manufacturing type use. And when you think about the chemicals, when they're talking about heating up this plastic, it's 350 degrees to 535 degrees. Your kitchen oven can literally, and often does, right in the middle of that temperature range. You're baking a cake.
But it's not burning plastics.
But you're not burning plastic here either.
Yeah.
That's the key. You're not burning plastic. Because burning, whole different thing. If there's combustion, the chemicals released are entirely different. That's why there are those safeties on that equipment, to make sure that the temperatures, the internal temperatures of those machines do not exceed that. And with the cooling system, the closed-loop cooling system, that's why that water is filtered. So it is fully recycled. There was a question earlier about that. So in terms of makeup water, it's 255 gallons a day is the estimate for water that will need to either make up or backwash the system. And when I say backwash, this is non-contact water. So this is things like scale and stuff that's in the water, but that can build up in a system. You see this in your shower or bathtub. You can get that scale, and it's the same in any kind of a cooling system. So they will backwash that out. It has a filter unit. It's both like a coarse filter, and then there's like a finer, usually like 5 microns filter to capture that stuff. That is backwashed out over a period of time. It's like a slower drip system, so it's not a big plug.
I'm sorry, so it's backwash, but something grabs that backwash, so it doesn't go into so the filtration system grabs?
Yeah, the filtration system grabs everything in because it's closed loops. The same water is going round and round, just making loops through the system. But over time, you'll get that scaling and things like that. So they have to occasionally clean the filters that keep that water clean. Those get backwashed, the filters. And that's where the 255 gallon comes, whether it's the towers or the cooling units themselves, those have to get backwashed. But it's the same as any large scale, the hospital's air conditioner, or frankly, the cooling towers in this building do the same exact thing.
And that's just a closed system, and it never leaves the system?
It never leaves the system except for the backwash, and that's the 255 gallons per day. So that's the piece of it that would leave the system and comes back into the system. So this will be public water. Active Acquisitions has extended public water up Fairfield Road. We did that for the warehouse next door. We've already, because we were getting ready to build our warehouse here, so we've already extended the water main up Fairfield. We've already run the water lateral in, the sanitary laterals in, the storm laterals in. Both driveways are in. The road is widened. We're waiting on the utility company to finish moving the utility poles. I might be retired by the time that happens, but we're painfully getting there. But anyway, so all
about the utility pole that's in the middle of your driveway.
Yeah, we were told mid-July if there aren't any more storms. And then, of course, tonight there was a storm, so I'm waiting for the next excuse. It is extremely painful dealing with JCP&L in particular, but also Verizon. We are on them constantly to get it done.
Mr. Lang, real quick, that cooling water you were talking about, that is strictly for cooling, doesn't come in contact with resin by any means, correct?
Exactly. So what happens in the cooling, each of these machines, the molds have channels built into them, kind of the same way your coolant in your engine works, right? It doesn't come in contact with the fuel and oil, fuel and gas mixture right in your car. It just circulates through the metal part of your engine to cool it down. It's the same idea here. So the radiator fluid never comes in contact with the gas. Same thing here. The cooling water never comes in contact with the plastic. So it's just cooling the metal that makes the mold. All these molds are metal, right? So that water is just circulating within channels that are basically engineered or cut into the molds themselves, circulates around, it cools it off, keeps that temperature consistent so it doesn't overheat, and make sure they get a high-quality product because they have a very even temperature in the molds.
Is there any possible way where the resin can mix with the coolant?
I hate to use the word possible because there's anything's possible, but in real life, no. You could, it's just like...
If it's a mechanical breakdown, could something...
Wouldn't be a mechanical breakdown. Like a mold would have to actually crack and break, but that would be like a catastrophic failure. It would be obvious, it's just not working anymore.
So what happens during a catastrophic failure? Is there an automatic shutdown system? Does something happen?
Yeah, you would have a loss in the water pressure. There would be all kinds of indicators that this is wrong. That's why there's 30 people in the plant.
Does operations shut down? If there's a catastrophic, does operations just shut down automatically?
Yes, absolutely. Any kind of overheat, and that would be more the more likely scenario, or not likely, but more plausible scenario would be some kind of overheat. And that's all the automatic safeties are right there. These are in, metal. They're not like just a tube. They're actually in the mold itself. So the failure, you can never say never, but a failure like that would be really unusual for something like that. An overheat would be more of a typical kind of failure. But again, there's full safeties on all that. And these aren't unattended. This is not a robotic plant. That's why there's 30 employees per shift. They're constantly monitoring all the temperatures, the water pressure. If it's a hydraulic machine, the hydraulic oil pressure. They're watching all this stuff. There's quality control checks of the products coming out the back end. So you would, like a failure like I was describing, you would see that pretty quickly. The products would come out malformed, and it would be pretty obvious that there's something wrong.
Jeremy, you were involved with the warehouse approval at the planning board level, correct?
Correct, yes, I testified on that
Right,
as well.
and there are multiple manufacturing uses that are permitted in the zone. We have a unique use, that's why we're here as opposed to the planning board, correct?
Correct.
So could you just give board example, did you have a user lined up, or what type of user were you contemplating?
We designed the building originally for warehousing, so that is what we were originally going to do. And if we hadn't met these guys, we were, just about. I think our bond is the only thing we're left to do now for the rest of the site work, because like I said, we already got the utilities in, we already got the road in, the driveways, pretty much ready to go. And for a smaller building like this, you really have to have the building underway in order to get a tenant in. So it was kind of a win-win to find a local company, not only local to New Jersey, but manufacturing in New Jersey. It's just so rare. I mean, American manufacturing is not that common, but then New Jersey, born and bred manufacturing, it was just, it was really a great opportunity for us as a company. I feel really good about it, providing a place that these guys can expand, they can hold on to their workforce, because that actually matters to them. They don't look at their workforce as expandable, or expendable rather. It is expandable, not expendable. So, it's just a great story for us to have, somebody that's going to be a long-term corporate citizen of Howell. You heard from Russ, but I can tell you his three brothers are just as great. They run the company just like Russ described.
And the general permit, the air quality permit, that would be a condition of approval like any other outside agency approval, correct?
Absolutely, and if they were to change at some point and need, a more sophisticated permit, they'd have to come back to the board, because if there's any favorable action, I assume they're going to condition it on the general air permit, and, they would be then subject to that as an ongoing condition, for the life of the project.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a couple questions? All right, so the makeup water, so that's coming from public water, not from a well.
Correct.
Where is that effluent discharged to?
Public sewer.
Okay, so, and obviously, there's already a utility approval for a warehousing use on the site, so the applicant has and will make application to the utility company and then also OCUA to making sure that any change in the sewer demand with the use is compliant with the regulations, correct?
That's correct. In fact, this is a dramatic reduction. We were at about 6,500 gallons per day. This is down around 2,900 now, so it's roughly half of what we previously projected.
Okay, and then going back to, you talked about how the proposed equipment, it's the maximum for the worst case material. It's 11% for the VOCs and it's 4% for the particulate. Who determined that? And when that's submitted to DEP, that's obviously going to be reviewed by some professional at DEP that has experience in that. Did you prepare those numbers, or who did this on behalf of FlexCraft?
So FlexCraft has an internal department of engineering essentially, and then they also have separate air consultants. In addition, for most of these machines, the manufacturers actually go through with the EPA, basically to certify what each machine will produce under certain circumstances. So we've got this material in it, running it, at its max through rate, here's the emission. So, and then they take that worst case scenario on I think there's 23 pieces of equipment.
So I guess my question is, and I just want to make it clear for the board, right? While Mr. Lang is making a representation, he doesn't work for FlexCraft. He's the developer that has the warehouse approval of the property, and they're looking to sell this to FlexCraft. There is a professional that FlexCraft will engage that has already generated these numbers, and they will be checked by DEP as part of their application. We get the representation, but there is other folks who have expertise specific to FlexCraft's operations that's going to prepare these and submit them to DEP for review and approval. So while I don't take exception to what he put on the record, I just want to make that clear for the board that, it is someone that's going to have, more intimate knowledge and engage directly with Flexcraft, then they're going to have to submit that information to DEP to make sure that they comply with those requirements, so. And then we kind of talked about the utility poles, right? So I know the Rock Solid application and property is a separate owner and entity. They all start with AA, and then there's some different letters at the end. Can you provide us some timeline on what's the current perspective for the road to get repaid? Because I know while that's not part of this application, that is something that, you know, the condition of the road is not great, and I think, you know, the residents that drive through there every day are a little curious on when that's gonna happen, because it's, you know, it's been some time.
Yeah, so Fairfield Road is actually a bus route, so it severely limits the time in which we can work on it. And then when you do, and I'm sure you know this, when you do new utilities, you have to let the trench settle so that it doesn't settle under the new road. So all that settlement is done now. Schools are getting out of session right now. I forget the exact day Hal finishes up, but it's, you know, now. I know my kids are out on Wednesday. So we will be this summer, sometime in July, we'll be doing two things really. In front of the original warehouse that's already there, we're going to do full curb-to-curb mill and overlay, just like everything that's currently done from the railroad all the way down to the schools, like we did that. Same thing in front of the new warehouse. And then in front of this site, we're going to do stripe to stripe, because frankly, I have no confidence that the utility poles are going to be out of the way in time, but at least we'll get the travel surface, you know, white stripe to white stripe done, so that it addresses those rideability issues. And then at some point, when these utility poles are actually done, and frankly, at that point, if I'm waiting that long, I'm going to wait till the heavy equipment is done, you know, coming in to build this site, the Flexcraft site. And then, you know, probably next summer, we would do then curb to curb of that whole stretch.
Okay, so the commitment is, in July, we're gonna pay from the railroad tracks at the south of Rock Solid all the way through up to the northern property line, which coincides with the subject property.
Correct.
Full width, all right. Now, are you able to dictate any construction equipment only coming from Route 33 to build this subject site, so that way we don't have a brand-new paved road that's just gonna fall apart in 5 years with all the construction traffic?
We are, and your town engineer, Mr. Ghost, would be part of the whole pre-construction team. They're going to go over, you know, construction routes and things like that. So whoever I'm not sure who the contractor will be, but whoever that contractor will be coming in, have that pre-construction meeting, and they'll go over approved routes and hours of construction, all that kind of stuff.
So, okay, and then from the southern part of your property all the way up to 33 business, so you're gonna mill and repave the travel lanes. Now,
Up to, not all the way to 33 business, up to the end of the sewer improvement, which stops short of that, because our next we have another project that's a block over, basically, the old Foreman Farm. At some point, we'll be extending public sewer to that. So right now, the public sewer goes up past this site to a manhole and basically stops. It's right around the driveway to the New Jersey Natural Gas Training Facility. That's roughly it. So that's where the mill and overlay would stop now. And then eventually we'll continue the sewer on, go through the intersection with Business 33, up 33. We have a pump station that we'll be installing on Business 33 as part of the other project. That utility pole's already moved.
okay, all right, so as part of this warehouse, right, once the utility poles are moved, we're gonna pave up to basically the off-ramp from 33.
Yes.
And then now you're just waiting on the remaining sewer to service that other off-site property, and then after that's done, that will also get milled and repaved all the way to
Yes, that
Business
would-
33?
Exactly.
Okay.
Jeremy, I think what would be helpful, and it could be done as if the board were to act in the affirmative as a post-approval, is if you just provide to the board, specifically Charlie's office, and I'm assuming Justin's office and the township as well, is that schedule, and like what exactly you're doing when,
Okay.
Yeah.
and like the limits of it, and when you anticipate that happening, just so that we have it in our file if somebody were to ask, and then the town would have it in their file as well.
Sure.
Mr. Lang, those emissions thresholds you testified to earlier, those measurements taken inside the building, or is the outside air of the building? Or is that the air that's being exchanged to the outside?
It's neither. The way it's done is each piece of equipment is individually analyzed. So it's the actual emissions from that machine. is what they're doing. And
Okay.
then they aggregate, so in this case, there's 23 machines in the proposed operation here. And again, that could change later, and they'd have to redo this, but for what's currently proposed, there's 23 machines that have the potential to emit. So that's what they look at, and like I said, it's been rated in 2 categories, total VOCs, and then total particulate matter. And then there's another 7 groups of machines that are like grinders, vacuum pumps, blenders, things like that.
And the emissions from those machines is typically is emitted into the building, into the same air that people in the building are breathing, or are those machines filtered before they enter that air inside the building?
They're not filtered for VOCs because they have such low emissions. Some of them are. It depends on the machine. There's controlled and uncontrolled machines. Controlled machines have filters right on them for particulate matter. So depending on what it is, they'll do that filtering, but it's on the machine itself.
Okay, so there's the thresholds are low enough where there's no requirement to filter the air that's being vented outside
Correct.
the building? Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, there's no like mass, building-wide filtration. It's just, there is some particular matter only on certain pieces of machinery, and that's it. And there's no VOC filtration. It meets all the general permit standards just by the nature of the operation.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
Yeah,
else?
I got a question, actually. Piggybacking off of that. Air quality monitors?
They do
Yes,
not have air quality monitoring.
And that's that's DEP code, so it's not necessary.
Right, because they're looking at the potential emissions in the first place. So that's where the DP is starting. Like, how bad could this get? And that's why I was telling you before, it's important to understand they're running every one of these machines 24/7 at its maximum output capacity with the worst material. When I say worst, the material that would have the most potential emissions. And that's what they're adding up, and they're saying, okay, that doesn't trip any of the reporting thresholds. So if it did, that'd be a whole nother story, because there's a whole nother set of permits when you need engineering controls, whether that's monitoring, filtration, or other types of things. That's a different level of permitting. This is the most, basic or minor level of air permitting.
So Jeremy, this is a general permit, and if you want to equate it to like wetlands permitting, it's a GP versus an individual permit.
Exactly.
Correct?
That's a great analogy.
So typically, if you were going to get a wetlands general permit, there's a list of things you have to comply with. If you demonstrate compliance, you're issued the permit, versus an individual permit where there could be mitigation or other things that you have to do.
Great analogy.
How often do you have to submit the paperwork to the DEP? Is it done quarterly, or is it done monthly? Like, how often do you submit the paperwork?
It's a modeling thing, so it's basically every time they make a change, they have to re-register. So if they get a new piece of equipment, they've got to redo it, because the DEP's not just looking at each machine, they're looking at the totality of it. So that's why when they change a piece of equipment, they've got to redo it for the whole batch, and then re-look at what's the net of, in totality of
So even if they were replacing an existing piece of equipment with a newer model, they would have to rerun everything?
Yes, they would then have to basically do the same thing at the first time.
And I don't know if you know the answer, but what is typically like the life of some of this equipment? Is it like 25 years? Is it 5 years? Like, how often do we anticipate like replacing equipment? I mean, I understand that things break, so like we'll leave that to the side, right? But like, yeah, sometimes like you have a dryer and it just stops functioning properly. So like, what's the life the life of these
I'd have
this
to
equipment?
ask Russ on that.
Certain pieces of equipment that
You could use this, Russ.
Yeah, you can use
Everything's made in China, so it lasts 60 days.
We do have grinders and certain pieces of equipment that have been in service for 20-plus years. It's really all about kind of how you maintain them, take care of them. It is a lot of, machinery that if you take care of, they can last a long time.
Do you have like a capital plan, like, we anticipate having to replace like 3 pieces of equipment annually just to make sure, or it really depends on how the equipment is functioning?
It depends on how the equipment's functioning and what new business we're bringing in.
Okay.
So right now with the newer pieces of equipment, some of the things that go are more like computers, basically, PLCs on the machines, not necessarily the machines themselves. But that's the biggest wear and tear items.
So,
It's funny that you think I know what that means, but okay. What is that, what?
PLC, it's just like the logic, the compute, basically you can think of it as the computer of the
Got
machine.
you. Okay, thank you.
so, sorry, and then before you go, so as far as servicing the equipment, it's all oil or hydraulic based, so like, when that's done, it's by a technician who knows what they're doing. If there's a spill or they have to replace hydraulic fluids, like, that's done in appropriate manners in accordance with like hazardous materials and NJDEP requirements?
We have a full department and a team of people that have been doing it for a very long time.
Okay.
Kristen's gonna hit that.
Anything else from the board or professionals?
Questions have been answered
Yeah.
so far.
Okay, that's all you have?
For this one.
Okay, now, we are at 10 o'clock. We have, this case is very important to a lot of people, and I do want to make sure we give it as much time as we need to make sure all our questions are asked. I know we've covered a lot tonight already, but I think it's more beneficial that we come back fresh and get everything so the public would be able to get their questions in and you can finish up. So we have to look at the next date as far as when we can bring them back.
Can we have the second one on July 13th?
We have 3.
I know one's mine, so that would
So,
be a bump.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
After we carried, I'm sorry, after the board carried Bernard Journay to July 13th, his attorney came and said his client had a problem on that day. So, but since we had officially carried it,
Yeah.
on the on the 13th, we'll carry it again till, I guess, when, Lisa, to July 27th?
Okay.
So I just wanted to be aware that that's not going to be on for July.
Yeah, I don't even think that's going to
Yeah.
take that long anyway, but
Yeah.
either way, we'll,
So if we could have July 13th for this, I understand my other application may not get reached, but
yeah,
that's how
well,
things.
unfortunately, I want to make sure everybody gets heard and we get everything taken care of before we,
That's fine.
okay?
Yeah, and we do have several more witnesses, so we.
Yeah,
we're gonna
and I don't
be
want to
fine.
be rushing. And
So-
let us kind of regroup and have our questions.
Thank you.
So-
So if we could announce that date, that
Yes.
would be appreciative, so we don't have to renotice.
Okay, case number BA 26-08, AASTHW Properties LLC is going to be carried to July 13th with no further notice, and the expiration will stay the same. So, we'll see you back on the
Yeah. All right,
13th.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, if there's no further business of the board, I will entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close?
Motion by Anne Marie, who's second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Kavarakis. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see everybody on the 13th.